and leave your bat, you upset umpires and your manager. But when you walk off with a home run, everyone goes home happy. Tonight, St. Louis sends King Albert, walks, no better said they hobble into Milwaukee. What has been Cardinal Central in years past is up for grabs now. Question, will the Crew make a move this weekend on FSN North? Well, the National League's best team over the last couple of seasons is visiting Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Brewers hope to send a message to the St. Louis Cardinals on FSN North. And for these Cardinals, awkwardly enough, they're looking up at the red-hot Cincinnati Reds. Milwaukee just trying to make hay, bottom line, have a big weekend series, win 2 of 3, or sweep the Cardinals, and you've got a very different perspective. On this Friday night, we bid you adieu. Certainly glad you are with us. Darren and Bill, glad to have you at Miller Park. And speaking of a different perspective, it's very different, Bill, when the Cardinals come to town, minus Albert Pujols, and this is a team, it's really not a big surprise. They have not found their way without the best offensive player in baseball as of yet.
Well, and there's no doubt about it when you lose Albert Pujols, and it could be for a considerable amount of time, maybe 6 weeks. It brings the Cardinals back toward everybody else, but just remember, this is still a pretty good offensive ball club. The struggles that the Cardinals have been experiencing is a result of starting pitching. I think the Brewer fans can remember that kind of stuff, but again, Albert Pujols out of the lineup makes everybody's job for the Brewers a bit easier.
The Brewers, of course, taking 3 of 4 from San Diego. Walk-off fashion yesterday. Funny thing about this club, Bill, the later the game gets, the more they relax in the batter's box.
And you know what it all comes down to? The pitching. If the starting pitching in the bullpen keeps this young, explosive offense close late in the game, they come up with the heroics. Bill Hull's been doing it. Brady Clark yesterday, he was a big part of that thing, so it's up to the pitching to stay close late.
You know, funny, Billy Hull, who hit it out yesterday, I asked him, why is it you seem more comfortable in the 10th than you do in the 3rd?
Never. I mean, we keep battling until the last out is made, and we always know we got a chance with the type of lineup we have. You know, everybody can hit the 3-run homer. All we got to do is just keep grinding, get a couple guys on base, and see what happens.
All right, time for a 5th starter to step up. Jorge De La Rosa, no doubt about this stuff. He's got to make it happen. His 4th career start against the Cardinals is next. Well, certainly glad to have you back. It's good to be back on the air here at Miller Park. Milwaukee taking 3 of 4 from San Diego. This is a different world, though. Robin Yount back in town. Back behind the manager, Ned Yost, as bench coach, explaining ground rules to visiting skipper Tony La Russa. We would like to welcome our viewers watching the Milwaukee Brewers in high definition on FSN North this evening. Obviously, a huge series for the Brewers. The St. Louis Cardinals, Ned Yost said they're an incredibly sound team, but they are a different team without Albert Pujols. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And Ned, good to see him smiling, hoping that his starting pitcher, Jorge De La Rosa, can find home plate early and often. 2,200 and nearly 50 victories for Tony La Russa and the St. Louis Cardinals, with the White Sox, the A's, and of course the Cards. Starting lineup brought to you by GMC. David Eckstein, So Taguchi, and of course, no Albert, so it's Scott Rowland who's red hot. Juan Encarnacion, Scott Spezio, Hector Luna. Yadier Molina, Aaron Miles, and Mark Mulder against left-hander Jorge De La Rosa.
And De La Rosa making his 3rd start, 18th appearance overall. His last 3 appearances have been starts, including tonight. 2-2 record, a 7.90 earned run average. Didn't fare too badly in his last start here at Miller Park against San Diego. As you take a look at the Dodge scouting report, the 8th start overall in his career for Jorge De La Rosa, 3rd against the Cardinals. Tough luck, kid. He's settling in his last time out pretty good, and without Albert Pujols, this is an offense that you can pitch to, but they're still pretty good.
Defense brought to you by Rico. Jeff Cirillo back at 3rd base tonight with a lefty on the mound. Infield of Hall, Weeks, and Fielder. Outfield of Lee, Clark, and Jenkins. Cirillo, his 7th start of the year. Of course, had a couple of starts earlier this week at shortstop. Has played all over the infield and has been a bit of a spark plug earlier this week, especially at short.
Well, Ned figuring out ways, just like he had to do with Bill Hall early in the season, to get Cirillo in that lineup. He's been swinging the bat so well.
Speaking of spark plugs, David Eckstein digs in and takes a fastball for strike one from De La Rosa. David at .319, a single home run, 15 RBIs. Certainly not known for his home runs. He was 6 for 13 against the Brewers in that early season series in St. Louis. Squares the bunt, hugging the line, still rolling, trickles foul. And he is a good 15 yards past first base. So fortunately for the Brewers, that's just a short strike.
Yeah, this is a guy that's been good at getting on base in his entire career. He's got a .384 on base percentage, and you know, if that one stays fair, that's easily going to be a base hit, but trickles foul. Cirillo picks it up.
David with 76 hits, tying him with Alfonso Soriano and David Wright for most hits in the National League. Also has 25 multiple hit games. That is good for the NL lead as well. Out of the University of Florida, and he lifts that one into the seats. Tough guy to strike out. David Eckstein has just struck out 15 times this season.
That's what you like about a leadoff hitter, a guy that's going to get on base. So Taguchi, the number 2 hitter, pretty good at making contact as well. Usually the guys at the top of the order are going to be on that list.
Well, he thought about hacking at that breaking ball, but didn't. Well, again for De La Rosa, and Bill touched on it a bit in his scouting report. Fastball above average, curveball certainly above average, and a plus changeup and slider as well.
And certainly a guy that you think can come out of the bullpen and make some starts because of those 4 pitches. Just a matter of having the confidence to throw him for strikes.
David Eckstein spoils a very good high fastball. We'll do it again, 1-2. The first Cardinal hit in the new Busch Stadium, appropriately enough, from David Eckstein, and even more appropriately, a bunt single. Christening the ballpark. Very shallow in the outfield, the Milwaukee Brewers. And again, he lays off. As a matter of fact, you look at Brady Clark, who usually plays also very deep. He is shallow and towards right, almost playing him like a left-handed pull hitter.
Almost as if the pitcher is batting. You know, Carlos Lee very shallow. You can see Jenkins very shallow and right. Not a guy that's going to drive the ball a whole lot, so he's just trying to dunk it into the outfield, particularly with 2 strikes.
Well, he's worked himself to a 3-2 count. 96 miles an hour, a fastball in the dirt. De La Rosa last time out against Washington, nearly a flawless start, but walked the bases loaded, walked the pitcher to load the bases, walking Tony Armas on Sunday. And went to the bullpen, and a big blast after that by Alfonso Soriano. Fastball inside corner. David doesn't like it. He is tough to strike out. He is disagreeing with that call. But battle won there by De La Rosa.
I don't think it was too high, and it had the plate. I mean, that's a nice pitch by De La Rosa. What they were thinking about, coming inside or not. You can see right at the belt, right on the inside corner. Check out Damian that holds it there for Mark Wegner, the home plate umpire. Well, if Eckstein's gripe is if that was high, it wasn't.
Good fastball over the outside corner to Taguchi. So you look at this lineup and you see David going to get a refreshment after that at bat, but this lineup certainly changes now. Scott Rowland and maybe Juan Encarnacion are the 2 players, Bill, that will drive the ball. Otherwise, it's a lot of guys that Tony La Russa hopes can make a lot of contact.
Well, you got some role players that are going to have to play quite a bit. You got Scott Spezio in the lineup today. You've got Aaron Miles, a guy that isn't going to drive the ball a whole lot. And everybody talks about Albert Pujols, but Jim Edmonds has missed quite a bit of time in the last week to 10 days.
How about that breaking ball? That's strike 3. Wicked stuff. So far, so good for De La Rosa. Strikes out Eckstein and Taguchi. 2 tough customers that don't strike out a lot.
This is nasty breaking ball. He gets ahead. That's a good pitch. So far, so good with the location. There are times when he'll throw the changeup, he'll throw the breaking ball, hang him, and that's when he gets hurt. He didn't hang that one.
Here is the red-hot Scott Rowland, the savior, if you will, through all of this. Although the St. Louis Cardinals have been winning a lot or losing a lot of late, they were swept by Cincinnati. They've lost 5 of their last 6, but this man has not missed a beat. Home run's not where he'd wanted to be, just 6 this year. Good fastball. It's 1-1.
Well, coming off that shoulder surgery, you figure that Scott Rowland, number 1, he's going to make contact and get his hits, and the power is going to follow. I don't think anybody in St. Louis is worried too much about the power numbers. They're going to come, but he is really swinging the bat well.
Yeah, that shoulder injury limited him to just 56 games last year. That fastball misses low and inside. And funny thing for Scott Rowland, he rakes on the road. Brewers have a couple of hitters like that. Carlos Lee's put up huge numbers away from Miller Park. Big home run totals. Not nearly as many as at home. Base hit center field. Boy, Bill, you nailed it. You can see his approach right now. It's to get on.
Nice and short. He's not over swinging. You know, he's one of those guys that realizes that he hasn't been hitting the home runs, and the Cardinals are going to need him to do that while Pujols is nursing that oblique injury. But he's not pressing. He's not trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. If he gets a pitch, he might turn on it, but that's a nice swing on a pitch down in the zone.
So Rowland in support of Mark Mulder, who will take the mound here momentarily. And here's Juan Encarnacion. This is another guy heating up. By the way, nice job, Damian. I'll tell you. That base hit for Scott Rowland gives him now a 13-game hitting streak. And to quickly switch back over, Bill, to Damian, blocking a fastball in the dirt is tough, isn't it?
And you know what? Jorge De La Rosa is not an easy guy to catch. I mean, when you get a guy that has this stuff moving all over the place and he's got the wicked break on his off-speed pitches, it's a long day back there trying to block it.
Oh, a changeup. First one of those that we have seen tonight. We've seen fast, curve, and now change.
And that's the pitch that from time to time, as a starter anyway, that Jorge has made a mistake with from time to time. You're not going to make a mistake with that location down and away. You really have to pitch Encarnacion away. Make him go to the opposite field.
Threw him another changeup. That one he left right over the heart of the plate. When you talk about these guys like Rowland and Encarnacion and even Spezio for that matter, who are picking up the slack for Albert Pujols, you know you're good when you go down on the disabled list on Sunday. And nearly a week of games goes by. I mean, it's now Friday, and he still leads in home runs comfortably by 2. He leads in RBIs by 11. And folks have had 6 days to catch him. Breaking ball, he just struck out the side with some wicked stuff. Jorge De La Rosa has let everyone know that he is ready to pitch. You'll hope he can just pitch deep into this game tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals. David Eckstein, good morning. Welcome to Wisconsin. Of course, So Taguchi, good afternoon. Good night, Mr. Encarnacion. Left-hander to another. Mark Mulder is just about ready to go. Good stuff for De La Rosa to start things off. Let's take a look at Ned's 9. The starting lineup at the top is Ricky Weeks, Jeff Cirillo, then Billy Hall batting third tonight. Note where Jeff Jenkins is hitting. You look all the way down. Jeff Jenkins has moved to the 7th spot this evening. It's Clark and De La Rosa to round it out against Mark Mulder.
Well, Mulder has lost 3 in a row, and May 17th he was 5-1, so it's been a rocky road for him since the middle of May. A Dodge scouting report shows his last 2 starts have been rough ones. 11 innings, 16 runs he's allowed. He's got a good sinker when he's on, a lot of ground balls, and he's given up 13 home runs. Last year, 19 home runs allowed.
The left-hander out of Michigan State University has to count 1-1 on Ricky Weeks. A high strike, but a strike nonetheless. I think when you're Weeks and you're told in that scouting meeting, sinker, sinker, be ready for the sinker, you're surprised when you get a letter high strike. 1-2 the count to Weeks. 3 for 8 this year against St. Louis Cardinals pitching. Breaking ball, kept his hands back as long as he could. That's his workout partner in the winter throwing him out there, David Eckstein. All right, let's take a look at the defense for the Cardinals. And you've got to think ground balls if you were a Cardinal defender. Scott Spezio is very important. Aaron Miles, David Eckstein, Scott Rowland, Luna, Taguchi, and Encarnacion in the outfield. Molina works behind home plate, but Scott Spezio, the former Angel, and the man who, with the A's breaking in, was a second baseman exclusively. He's played everywhere.
It is a very solid infield for these St. Louis Cardinals. Scott Rowland may be the best third baseman in baseball. Who knows? Eckstein very solid, good up the middle.
A little bit low. 1-0 the count to Jeff Cirillo. Spees is, I remember him from Anaheim. He's always coloring the facial hair. Cardinal red. And that hair that he is wearing under his cap usually is brown, but it is jet black. I passed by him in the locker room, didn't even recognize him. But a guy whose career literally almost ended with 2 totally disappearing seasons in Seattle. Ironically enough, the man in the batter's box can relate. I mean, he and Jeff Cirillo both.
The right-handers are going to have to carry the load tonight because Mark Mulder's tough on the lefties.
The right-handers hitting .300 against Mulder this year. They've hit 12 of the 13 home runs that he has allowed. Now understand that a lot of average to below average lefties get the night off against Mark Mulder. Only your elite left-handed hitters. You've taught me that over the years.
And still in all day, they don't hit him very well.
And they still don't hit him. You're right. So a challenge tonight for like Fielder and Jeff Jenkins, who's been moved down as Carlos is reaching. Now Carlos all that time in the American League with the Chicago White Sox. Mulder as well, one of the 3 aces with the Oakland Athletics. So a lot of time turned in between these two. Carlos 8 hits in 32 career at-bats against Mark Mulder. 7 strikeouts. He got him once, just once in those 32 at-bats. High drive, left center field. Hector Luna going back. Warning track wall. He leaps. Get out of here on a bounce. It did. A 3-run home run for Carlos Lee. His second in his career against Mark Mulder.
And the struggles continue for Mark Mulder. We mentioned his last 11 innings, he gave up 16 runs. And look how strong Carlos Lee is. I mean, he had to pull the hands in, didn't even get extension on it, and 1 hop off the wall and into the Brewer bullpen for a 3-run homer. That's a good way to start the series. That'll give Jorge De La Rosa some confidence going out there.
And we talked about that pack chasing Albert Pujols. Carlos Lee certainly in that pack. Number 20 for El Caballo as the breaking ball is high and inside.
And that's all strength from Carlos Lee. I mean, that ball got in on him a little bit. He didn't even get the big part of the bat on it, and he literally muscled that out of the ballpark. You have to be awfully strong to do that. Well, check it out. He's going to hit this ball back in here. I mean, you could see it. He wasn't even getting extension. The arms weren't even extended, and he was still able to get it out of the ballpark.
Well, he pulled those hands right in by his belly button there.
Yes, he did, and still had. That was all about the bottom side, the legs. I mean, he was on good balance and rotated those hips and strong enough to get it out of the ballpark.
Young Prince Fielder trying to stay back on a breaking ball. Prince, one of the guys trying to get back on track, although hitting .300 this season. Just 4 for 22 in this homestand. It's a 182 clip. But you're not surprised, folks. You have to remind yourself that, well, of a couple of things. Number 1, he's 22. Number 2, he's a rookie. And rookies will go through their highs and lows throughout this first season. Rolls that one out to Gold Glover Scott Rowland in time for the out.
Now, the other thing to consider is now that it's the 3rd month of the season, the scouting report a little bit more extensive on Prince, so he's going to have to make some adjustments. The league is starting to anyway. A lot of times you'll see a player get hot very early. All of a sudden the scouting reports come out, how you pitch them, and pitchers start to execute. Prince is going to have to make some adjustments.
Damian, a little topper to his former battery mate in Oakland. Little sidearm flip there from Mark Mulder, but Carlos Lee against his old foe from the junior circuit said, "It's good to see you again." I'm sending this one on home run. Switch hitter drops down a bunt, and he drops it down foul. Scott at 293, 3 home runs and 16 RBIs. Carried an 8-game winning streak into the month of May, and then was ill for a while, battled a virus that sat him down, and they certainly didn't like that. He's become kind of a Bill Hall for this club. As you have seen, he can play just about anywhere. Make a mistake, he'll pop it on you. He's hit 3 this year. And the count is 1-1 on Scott. Yeah, Bill, his band is Sand Frog, and they're pretty intense. It's not you know, easy listening.
Heavy metal?
It is. It's borderline heavy metal.
What does he play?
He's the lead singer, guitarist. Kind of a garage band, they call it. Oh, nice change of pace. 1-2 the count.
Well, that is a nice pitch for Jorge. He's thrown a couple of them in this game, and both of them have been well located. Well, look at the change of speeds on that pitch. Speeds you way out in front. He's got good arm action on that pitch tonight.
Curveball, strike 3. He just turns and walks away. Holy smokes. Let's find Craig Cashon with a little bit more. Craiger?
That's right. Good pitching start so far for Delo, and it's interesting. Despite the recent woes by the starting pitching staff, the Brewers are headed for a season high. If this keeps up, that would be quality starts. Right now they have 4 in a row by the starters, and I asked pitching coach Mike Maddox, you know, what he's seen over his starters, and he says it's all about execution. He says it all the time, but he's seeing it more and more day in and day out from his starters. You go back to the last start on Sunday for De La Rosa alone. He said, you know, a lot of people will be ignoring his start. He said he was actually very pleased with it. You know, if he doesn't make the mistake in the 6th inning, walking the pitcher would eventually lead to a grand slam. He says he's had really a nearly perfect outing, so he's seen a lot of positives come across from this pitching staff alone, as this one scooped up by Fielder. Had a runner at first, but despite what we've seen recently, it looks like this pitching staff is heading back in the right direction, guys.
Well, thank you, Craig. And are we surprised? I mean, Mike Maddox, Bill, was pulling his hair out about a week ago, and he just kept saying, he was quoted, he told you and I and Craig, I'm just going to keep working. That's all I can do is keep preparing the game plan.
No doubt about it, and bring guys from the minor leagues to fill in for, you know, non-productive starts. That's happened. Ben Hendrickson and Dana Evelinson down to the minor league. Zach Jackson with a very good outing yesterday. Isn't it amazing? You know, it was about 2 turns through that rotation that weren't very good. The Brewers had an 8-game losing streak. They've had 4 consecutive quality starts, and they're 3-1 in those starts. So, you know, there's no real mystery to the formula to win games, and that starts with the starting rotation.
There's no question about the stuff for De La Rosa and Zach Jackson, who, as you were talking about, pitched into the 7th. As Cirillo slipped as if he was thinking he had to play at that ball, flipped some dirt in the air, but I don't think Jeff gets there. So back-to-back singles. Both seeing eye singles, it is duly noted, by Luna and Molina.
And neither one of those balls hit very well. Rollins' ball in the 1st inning hit pretty well. But that one, you can't do anything about that. Yadier Molina has been swinging the bat pretty well in the last week to 10 days for the Cardinals. So, you know, the catching spot that has been very unproductive so far this year, trying to, you know, pick up the absence of Albert Pujols.
Oh, Molina, Bill, he had a 7-game hitting streak that was snapped on Wednesday. And over his last 31 at-bats, he's hitting about 340. So, yeah, right on the money. And that's what they need. They need all the guys that were hitting 180, 190, 220. They need them to hit about 280 to pick up for the slack. And Ned Yost was pointing that out. He said they will not replace the offense, but they need all of their players to step it up just a notch. He said it's similar to our pitching staff in replacing Ben Sheets. Every pitcher, down to Joe Winklesass all the way up to David Bush, they need to step it up one notch.
You know, really, when you talk about the Cardinals' struggles in the last week or so, it really has not been the offense. It's been the starting rotation. And I guess Brewer fans can relate to what the Cardinals are going through. They're still a very good ball club, but they, you know, with the absence of Albert Pujols, it brings them more toward the middle.
Cirillo, long throw from the bag, a double play. There you go, young man. They gave you another shot. And a pretty job right there by the veteran Jeff Cirillo. 1, and then 2 is way over there. Taking a look ahead of a 3-0 game and an upcoming television schedule brought to you by Miller. We'll be with you Saturday and Sunday against the St. Louis Cardinals, and Monday and Tuesday against the Cincinnati Reds. Pre-game coverage on Monday and Tuesday as we head back to the Queen City. The division leading Cincinnati Reds, let it be clearly stated.
You know, actually, a lot of the players just left their clothes and all their luggage in that room. I mean, we were there, what, a few days ago?
That's a good call. Over the outside corner, 0-2 the count against Jeff Jenkins.
2 weeks ago, right? Cincinnati?
A couple of weeks ago. I miss it really a lot. Have a reunion there. Stir things up a little bit. 0-2 the pitch. Boy, that just missed the inside corner. Ned Yost said Jeff Jenkins has really been struggling against left-handed pitching. We need to get a little bit more production out of him against lefties and righties. Probably for the next few days at least will be in that 7 slot. When asked does he care, he said, I'm sure he cares. He better care. He's a guy that's born to be a 3 or a 5 hitter, but he understands the move.
Well, in the meantime, it's going to be Billy Hall in that number 3 spot. Certainly deserves it the way he's been swinging the bat, and it paid off in the first inning. Damian Miller moves up a notch in the batting order to number 6. Give a little bit of protection to Prince Fielder. I would imagine Damian against right-handed pitching is going to get a few better pitches to swing at with Jenkins behind him. And Ned said it'll be a few days at least, maybe a week.
Well, and for Jeff, he's 0 for his last 8, 4 for his last 27. And hitting 143 this year against left-handed pitching. The 3-2. Breaking ball, slaps it down the line. Took a good shot at it. But you talk about Jeff and you talk about lefties. I mean, he's a power hitter from the left side of the plate. So that average is not going to be high against left-handed pitching. But in his career, he is .255 against left-handed pitching coming in to this season. As he rolls that one foul, a far cry from the 143 he's struggling with this year.
Remember that second game against the San Diego Padres, Jake Peavy had 4 for 4 night. And it looked as though he was getting together, but Ned figuring his offense is better off with Jeff down in the order a bit.
But for Jeff, too, outside of that 4 for 4 night, he's actually 0 for 23. So that 4 for 27 includes all 4 hits in one evening. And you're certainly right, Bill. It looked as if on that evening things were going to stop on a dime and turn. The 3-2 to Jeff. High and inside, and he earns, and I mean earns that walk.
Well, I don't know how that ball missed his nose. I mean, diving, I would imagine, a little bit toward the outside corner, and Mark Mulder threw one up and in and nearly got a piece of Jenkins. How does this pitch miss his head? Or at least his arm. So Jenkins on with a walk to lead off the second inning. You can just tell the command is not there for Mark Mulder. It hasn't been in his last 3 starts, particularly his last 2, and so far tonight.
Well, in his last 2 starts, he has worked 11 innings, given up 22 hits and 16 runs. That's certainly not the Mark Mulder that has dominated baseball for a majority of his career.
And 5 home runs, not including tonight.
And there you have it. Against Chicago and at San Diego. He is 0-3 in his last 3 starts. That start at San Francisco was fine, though. I mean, a start he deserved to win. The bullpen blew it out 9-2 the final, but he only gave up 3 in 6 1/3 innings. But again, in that start, if you look a little closer, 6 1/3, he had to throw 120 pitches in 6 1/3, and he walked 4. Reminds you of these struggles of a certain other Brewers left-hander who we have come to depend upon, Doug Davis.
Yeah, Dougie is one of those guys that very rarely will give up the 8 runs in a start, but certainly the command issues for Doug very similar to what Mark Mulder's going through. But Mulder would rather, throw a strike in situations when he's behind, as opposed to Doug, who just as soon walk you.
On the move, Jeff Jenkins, line to left field, misplayed out there by Hector Luna. So Jenkins, they may send him on around. Dale Swaim says, come on home. The relay, another throw off the mark, and Milwaukee takes advantage of a botched ball in left. And it is 4-0. Horribly played out there by Hector Luna.
I mean,
whether he lost it or I don't know.
The ball just took off on him. He went straight across, and then just at the last moment had to angle back toward the wall, and never even got glove on that baseball. That's got to be an out in the major leagues. Jenkins doing a nice job getting just about almost to second base. That ball got by Luna, and because of the good base running by Jenkins, aggressive base running, and aggressive coaching by Dale Swaim, Brewers able to tack on another run. Boy, a horrible play, a horrible misplay out in left field. Well, there's no excuse to miss that baseball. Brady hit it hard, but still in all, it wasn't that far away from Luna.
With nobody out, De La Rosa bunts it foul, and Dale Swaim had no question about what he was going to do.
In the absence of Jim Edmonds in the outfield, and he's nursing that side injury, or the abdominal strain, I should say. He's been playing a little bit of first base, but you have So Deguchi normally in left field. He makes that play.
A little slash, and he rolls it foul. You make a great point, Bill. We haven't brought it up enough. You lose Albert Pujols, it's obvious. You've lost a good portion of your offense, but you tack on Jim Edmonds, and you lose a boatload of defense and a very solid hitter.
Yep, and it's a run producer in Jim Edmonds, so you're losing an awful lot of offense with those 2 guys out, and you weaken your outfield defense.
Breaking ball, strike 3.
Well, that brings us tonight's Carsoup.com email question tonight. What has been the key to the success in the Cardinals' run over the last few seasons?
Well, number one, they've dominated this division. I mean, they have knocked just about everyone off their mark in the Central, and that is key. I think that man is key, Tony La Russa. If you ask Ned Yost, Albert Pujols is a big reason. Jim Edmonds is a big reason. Bill, they play very solid defense. Their pitchers throw strikes.
And that's the key. I think their starting rotation keeps them in games even when they're not scoring runs. And that's one of the reasons why they've been struggling lately. The starting rotation just hasn't been getting it done. Yeah, Matt Morris and Chris Carpenter. Carpenter was on the DL for 2 weeks this year already. Mulder. I mean, they've had outstanding starting pitching throughout the last few years.
Boy, Ricky stayed back nicely on that one into left center field and all the way to the wall. Ricky's flying. He thought about 3 for the longest time. It is 5-0 Milwaukee. I'll tell you what, an off-speed pitch, and you thought he might leak forward, Bill, but those hands stayed back.
Yeah, Ricky Weeks got one of those curveballs his first time up. It wasn't a strike, but he saw it and he waited back nicely. Watched the body go forward, but the hands stay back, and still able to get enough of it to juice it into left center. So Brady Clark, who should have been out with a catch in left, able to score on the Weeks double. All right, Brewers doing a nice job taking advantage of opportunities here tonight, at least in the first couple innings.
Milwaukee leading St. Louis 5-0. Low and inside now. You can't help but harken back to a start last September 24th by Mark Mulder, who won 16 games last season, but his ERA jumped a bit at the end because he made a start here at Miller Park. On September 24th, he went an inning and 2/3. He allowed 7 earned runs to the Brewers, and Milwaukee held on to win 8-7.
And it was one of those my heart's not in it starts. It was just a tune-up for the postseason. The Cardinals had already clinched. Certainly a very un-Mark Mulder-like outing in September, but certainly matching that tonight.
You know,
and this start's certainly important.
You might, Bill, not think of him as the guy that leads this list, mainly because he doesn't have that overpowering stuff like the other 4. But he does.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, Bartolo Colon, a bit of a surprise on that list.
I mean, you have Oswalt, you have Colon, you have Randy Johnson, all with that oomph in their stuff. Mulder's more of a pitch-to-contact sinker pitcher. And it's kind of surprising, really, when you see him, Bill, because he stands 6'6" and looks like he would throw at 96.
And that's why he has that good sinking fastball. It's really not been sinking a whole lot lately, but no, he stands tall. He gets on top of the baseball.
Jeff Cirillo into center field. Ricky Weeks scores easily. Milwaukee leads it 6-0 on top of the Cardinals. And Cirillo, a walk, a run scored, now a single and an RBI. And the big inning rolls on.
And Mulder getting an awful lot of the plate with his pitches in the first couple innings here tonight. Good quality at bats by the Brewers, not trying to pull the baseball. Check out Cirillo, that ball going down and away. Good scouting report on him. Butch Weimer doing a nice job in the early innings here, preparing his club. Not that they need it, they've seen Mulder before. They're really making the adjustments nicely tonight.
Josh Hancock begins to get loose in that Cardinals bullpen. Dave Duncan, the long time and in some circles regarded as legendary pitching coach of these St. Louis Cardinals, has some work to do.
And Dave Duncan has his son on the club right now, Chris Duncan.
He actually filled the spot vacated by Albert Pujols.
Yeah. That's got to be a big thrill for Dave Duncan.
Oh, you bet.
Maybe even more of a thrill for his son Chris, though, being in the big leagues.
But to wear that uniform on the 1st and the 15th, I'm sure it's a thrill. Big jump from AAA salary to Major League minimum.
A little bit, huh?
Here's Bill Hall. Sinker a little bit low, 1-0 the count. Molina held it there for a long time. Well, Billy singled and scored back in the first inning on the home run by Carlos Lee. 5 for 7 now in his career against Mark Mulder. You know, we showed you that graphic earlier about how Mark Mulder's the winningest pitcher since '01. Broke into the big leagues in00 with the Oakland Athletics. And he's won 65% of his games in the major leagues. 102 and 54. Flat out a good pitcher, just not tonight. Nowhere close. It's 3-0.
He's got outstanding stuff. I mean, he knows how to pitch, but he's been on some pretty good clubs too. Just about every year that he's played, they've been in the postseason, the Oakland A's and the Cardinals. To take nothing away from Mark Mulder, he still has to put up those numbers, an ERA under 4. And in this day and age, that's pretty good.
3-0 the count. Mulder to Hall. And it's 3-1. This lineup, too, once you get to this point in the lineup, loaded with hitters that love lefties. Cirillo, .464 against lefties. Billy, .391. Carlos, .314. Prince hits better against lefties, amazingly enough. And he's left-handed. And the numbers tell us that these are the innings that Mark Mulder is pretty much unhittable. Not tonight. Very, very solid approaches by all of these guys. On the ground, back to the mound. There's one. There's two. The 14th double play rolled up this year by Mark Mulder, but the Brewers lead it by 6. have uncovered some offense tonight. Though they have played well in that series against the San Diego Padres, winning 3 of 4, they didn't do it with big offense. They did it with pitching. As De La Rosa faces a man who can certainly handle the bat in Mark Mulder. Homered against Jose Capion earlier this year and rolls this one on a broken bat. Out to Prince Fielder in time for the out. Since the end of May and a run in which Milwaukee won very little, coming into tonight, they had not scored 6 or more runs in a game. They finally put a notch in that column. Now that spans a total of 12 games, tonight being the 13th. In those 12 games prior to tonight, they were 3-9. So good to see the offense discover itself again. Here's David Eckstein. Eckstein struck out looking as he takes strike 1 in the inside corner. He was none too happy with the call by Mark Wagner. Now, in David Eckstein fashion, that means he turned around and softly said, "I think that's a ball, sir," and walked away.
Yeah, he doesn't get too excited about much, does he? Now, it has been a relatively high zone. I mean, not high out of the strike zone, but, you know, pitches around the belt, called strikes tonight. Bill Hall had one called on him on a 3-0 count.
I was going to say both ways.
Yeah, it's been both ways. So you know what? You have to make the adjustment.
Mark Wagner saying, "I'm calling it close to the letter of the law. Knees to the letters." Outfield shallow again for David. Breaking ball, and that speaks right there, Bill, to his ability to put the ball in play. Not many hitters make contact at that pitch.
Yeah, he's pulled the ball down around his shoes, and mid-swing he's able to adjust the flight of the bat and make contact. Tony La Russa still keeping his sense of humor.
Did he make the play?
I don't think so.
E10.
Knocked it down, but you know, he made the play. I mean, he kept it close.
So he got the runner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess he wanted to do that instead of letting it go and hitting one of his players and another one on the DL.
Yeah, that's exactly. Another breaking ball misses outside. Good stuff so far for De La Rosa. He's thrown 35 pitches as he works here in the 3rd inning with 1 out in the 3rd. He's already struck out 4, struck out the side in the 1st inning. And he has brought Ned Yost to a rare spot, the top step, to keep an eye on him. Brewers manager usually stays a little more incognito down there by that tunnel, taking it all in. 1-2 the count. Changeup, he tops it out toward 3rd. Jeff Cirillo backhands, got him. Boy, it looked like Prince almost stretched a little bit early there.
I mean, it's one of the things that the Brewers have been working on with Prince Fielder, his stretch, and sometimes he does, you know, get that stretch going a little bit too early and has to make the adjustment and finds himself off balance. Stretching quite a bit and realizing the throw is high and almost got over his head.
Jeff Cirillo uncorked a rocket across the diamond. Here's So Taguchi. Struck out back in the 1st inning. That one is line foul. No runs on 3 hits and no errors for the visiting St. Louis Cardinals. 6-5-0 for the Brewers. Get that cleaned up, locked up out there, ready to go. Curveball left it up, and he's going to pay for it. Down the line it goes. Bill Hall is the one who will pounce on it. He left that one right at the belt, and fortunately, with a lot of other hitters, power hitters, that one's not coming back. Double for Taguchi.
And Taguchi did a nice job staying inside that baseball and keeping it fair. Ball was down, which was good, but it had a lot of the plate. I guess it wasn't down, was it? Up in the strike zone, hands lead the barrel of the bat. It went off of Cirillo's glove. That's why it was called fair. And that'll be a double.
Shiso Taguchi greeting Bill Hall over there at short. Traditional Japanese greeting, as he is thrilled to be in scoring position. Now he's just worried about getting picked off as he keeps an eye. Here's Scott Rowland with 2 outs. Well, Bill, very important now as you look at the scoreboard and you look at De La Rosa, that he just hammers the strike zone.
Yep, and gets ahead with a fastball. Don't mess around with the off-speed pitches. He tried to get Eckstein with a breaking ball, and that looked like an off-speed pitch up in the strike zone to Taguchi. So, you know, pound the fastball early in the count, and then if you can, then you mess around with the off-speed stuff.
Good opportunity for him, folks, with this kind of support. As that one misses inside, 1-1. Going to really spread his wings a little bit more tonight.
Now Damian Miller doing a nice job so far, not setting up on the corners early in the count. Sending up middle in, middle away, not on the corners, and you know, if you do that, you risk getting behind in the count. You don't have to hit the corners early on.
Change up, 2-1 the count. Scott with that single back in the first inning now has a 13-game hitting streak. And to take it a step further, as you can see that second time through, that's not a big surprise for a guy who rarely starts.
He's only done it once, I believe.
That one bounces in there to Damian Miller.
And 3rd time through the order. He hasn't pitched deep enough into ball games in order to pitch 3rd time through the order, at least this year.
And that second time where it jumps over 400. That's not really a surprise either. When you're stretching it out, this is just his 3rd start this year. All the other work out of the bullpen. Good fastball. A little bit up in the zone. 3-2 the count. De La Rosa made starts against St. Louis back in 2004. Here at Miller Park, he went 5 innings, gave up 2 runs against the Cardinals. Got a no decision, a game the Brewers eventually lost, so he pitched very well in his first start against the Cardinals at St. Louis. One of the final games of the season on October 3rd of 04. Not quite as good. 5 innings, 8 hits, and 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. And that one fouled back to the screen.
And I'll tell you why that statistic that we just saw can be deceiving. De La Rosa in his last start was 1 for 7. I mean, they got 1 hit and 7 at bats in the 3rd time through the order, but he walked 2, but allowed 3 runs. So you're talking about 3 base runners the 3rd time through the order. So statistics like that can be a bit misleading.
Full count, 2 outs. Fires it to Scott Rowland, who hangs in there, flipping it into the seats. "56 games last season for Rowland. If this Cardinals club still won big. Only 5 home runs last year from Rowland because of that shoulder. So they will again learn to survive this year without one of their big offensive sticks. To be noted is the fact that that is the first walk of the game for De La Rosa. You don't like it 6-0, but you like it that it comes in the 3rd inning.
And you like it didn't walk a couple in his 1st or 2nd inning, right? You got the lead on with walking batters, and now a home run gets the Cardinals right back into the ball game. You pitch tough to Rowland, but you throw strikes. If he hits it out of the ballpark at 6-2, now you add another base runner, and you make you're a little bit more at risk.
Encarnacion has homered 8 times this year, and he's coming on. Hit just .222 in April, .260 in May, and in June, .333. Here he comes. Changeup a dandy. No balls and 1 strike the count. Started that one right at the knees, and it disappeared.
Yeah, that's why you don't have to throw the changeup on the corners. You just have to throw it over the plate. Very similar to a split-fingered fastball.
Runners take off. Throw not in time. They stole those on De La Rosa. And you don't like that because a single now plates a pair with 2 outs.
Not often you're going to see the stolen base down by 6 runs, but I guess the Cardinals realizing that De La Rosa is so intent to throw strikes, not worried about the base runners. And Scott Rowland did a nice job. As a man at first base, he didn't get as good a jump. He had to make sure Taguchi was going to take off.
Number 6 for Taguchi. Breaking ball. That's a strike. 1-2 the count. And number 4 for Rowland. What to throw, Jorge. So many options here. The 1-2 pitch. Breaking ball. He left it over the plate a bit, but still had that good tight late break on it.
I'm not sure that was the pitch that Damian Miller wanted, because he looked like he had that target. He set it up high initially, and you never want to do that with a curveball. But he's not going out there to talk about the signs.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Milwaukee up by 6. Delo shakes him off once. Now they're going to talk things over.
Yeah, I think that De La Rosa crossed him up on that last pitch. They want to make sure this is a big pitch right here. You don't want to give up a base hit. Get him back in the ball game.
Taguchi at third, Rowland at second. What do we see here on 1-2? Fastball in.
Well, if you have confidence in that changeup, now's the time to throw it. Fastball in, and throw that changeup down and away if you can.
Keep it down, keep it away. That's the key. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and Encarnacion tired of waiting. Come on, boys, it was riveting. Let's keep it moving. The young lefty fires on 2-2, spikes it to the backstop. It goes. Now, Bill, as I saw it, it looked like a changeup that he might have held on to for too long.
Yep, it was a changeup. Tried to overthrow it, put too much of a good arm action on it, and just spiked it down in the dirt. And the Cardinals able to scratch out a run because of a walk, a couple of stolen bases, and a wild pitch. Not the way you want to keep your momentum in this ball game.
I got to keep the defenders on their toes too. The pace has really come to a grinding halt. Runner on third, 3-2. Put him away. He didn't. Down the line with something on it. Toward the corner it goes, and it's gone.
That's a double.
Oh, it didn't get out.
No.
Thought it got over the wall.
No.
A double then. My apologies, folks. A double. Number 10 for Encarnacion. A screamer out toward left, and suddenly now look at this ball game.
Yeah, that was a fastball right down the middle of the plate. Encarnacion loves to pull the baseball. You have to force him if you can to hit him to the opposite field. Pitch him away. That one right down the middle, and he nearly hit it out of the ballpark. Hit about midway on that wall and stayed in the yard, and that'll be a double and an RBI. And Delo ahead in the count to Encarnacion, 1-2. Wasn't able to put him away.
So for Encarnacion, 29 RBIs give him now a 7-game hitting streak. I mean, a frozen rope out there to left. 6-2 the score. Here's Scott Spezia.
It really is hard to see that baseball as it goes off that wall with the lights out there. Yeah, you just can't see it.
Here's Scott. Curveball, strike 1, high, but a strike nonetheless. Scott struck out looking back in the 2nd inning. as a starter this year, and they've used him more and more in the absence of Pujols, and he'll replace Roland. As a starter, hitting .324. Won't get around on that one, though. Ricky Weeks coming back, and he's under it to make the play for the out. But just like that, things turn around. A pair. Big bats coming up from the crew, though. Lee, Fielder, and Miller. Glad to have you back. Our Piggly Wiggly game reset. The Brewers on top by 4. De La Rosa hit the wall a little bit, and because of that, the score 6-2. Milwaukee, their first road trip of the year, came when they visited St. Louis. They played at home against Pittsburgh. They swept Pittsburgh and then took 2 of 3 from Arizona. Went to St. Louis, lost 2 of 3. But the getaway day was a spectacular win for Milwaukee as Carlos rolls that one foul. Carlos was a part of it, certainly, as the Cardinals look to win the game. One Encarnacion, Carlos Lee going back up and over the wall and taking a home run away.
Well done, Carlos Lee.
And he won the game for Milwaukee. 4-3 they won it in 11 innings. Off the glove of Mulder, he tips it on over to David Eckstein in time for the out. 1-6-3 on the put out there. You've got to be ready on the infield playing behind Mulder. And you can sense, Bill, like Ned Yost had to look to his starting pitchers, even down 6+ runs to eat innings, that Tony La Russa is looking to Mark Mulder. Give me a few more, please, partner.
Well, no doubt about it. You keep him out there. He's one of the guys you're going to count on as the season goes on. You just got to figure maybe he's going to snap out of it. Keep him out there, and maybe something will click. It remains to be seen if he's going to get another at bat, because he's due up 4th in the top of the 4th inning. Make him work himself out of it. Give him the opportunity.
Prince grounded out to third back in the 1st inning. Against lefties, hitting .309, righties .297. That's a changeup, and that's strike 3. There was a time when a left-handed pitcher would never throw that pitch to a left-handed power hitter.
And when you put it in that location, why not? But you're right. You know, it's only been in the last maybe handful of years where lefties, it started with Tom Glavine, would throw a changeup to left-handed hitters. The philosophy was, you're just doing them a favor. You want to stay hard on their hands and the sliders away. You throw something off speed to a left-hander, you're helping them out, you're doing them a favor, but that's not the case.
Two 2-0 the count to Damian Miller. A Wisconsinite facing an Illinois boy. Mulder grew up in South Holland, Illinois, about 30 minutes from Chicago. Grew up a White Sox fan, though, not a Cubs fan. So when he faces his biggest rival, the Cubs, he's very comfortable in being their biggest rival as a Sox fan growing up. On 3-0. Well, that was ball 4. He looked for that top end of the strike zone there. It didn't exist.
Well, it looked as though he didn't want any part of Damian Miller. He'd prefer to go after Jenkins, the lefty. As good as he is against left-handed hitters, why not, I guess.
Let's see what Jenks has. He walked back in the 2nd inning, and it's a very interesting at bat. He was in the hold 0-2. Mulder looked like he might have hit the inside corner for strike 3. Then he never threw another strike. And ball 4 nearly hit Jenkins right in the helmet.
Man, Yadier Molina is talking to Mulder about maybe trying to be a little bit too fine in the strike zone. Let that natural sink take its course. And you know, Mulder will throw that sinker. He'll throw a cut fastball. We've seen the curveball, the changeup, and the slider all tonight. Haven't seen too many cutters, though.
No, he's not feeling his oats. He's just trying to get back to basics, isn't he? That, by the way, was Jeff Jenkins' spray chart. Taking a peek at that in the Cardinals dugout. as he fouls that one off. 1-1 the count.
A lot of notebooks in that visitors dugout.
1-1 the count. Two and 1 the count on Jeff. Jeff did walk and then came around to score on the Brady Clark double. There's a spray chart, our own version, of course, and you see majority of those hits either center or right for Jeff.
This is the way Jenkins has to attack left-handed hitters or left-handed pitching. Normally, when he does that, he finds his success. When he tries to pull it, he doesn't.
Oh, what a breaking ball. A nasty pitch from the left-handed hurler, Mark Mulder. Glad to have you back at Miller Park. Our Aflac trivia question. Aflac. Which active pitcher has won 15 or more games in a season over the last 5 consecutive seasons? In other words, this pitcher's been dominating over the last half decade. And he is active. You got to think Mark Mulder is not far off on that run. That could be the man. Remember that long run that Greg Maddux of the Cubs had. 16, 17 years, had that one snapped. Won in double digits, but did not reach 15 wins last year. 1-0 the count to Hector Luna, and we watch closely now as Jorge De La Rosa goes back to work. 2-0 the count. 2 runs on 5 hits and no errors for St. Louis. 6 runs, 5 hits and no errors for the Brewers. A 3-run home run by Carlos Lee and RBI doubles by Ricky Weeks and Brady Clark, a big part of the offense.
Yeah, big important inning for De La Rosa. You got the bottom of the Cardinal order, and it appears as though Mark Mulder is starting to find it a bit. And down 3-0.
Not a good way to start this inning. A leadoff walk to Hector Luna on 4 pitches from the left-hander De La Rosa. You score 6 against Mark Mulder, you do it early. And as we talked about, Bill, the key for De La Rosa, just hammer that. If they're going to beat you, let them hit you.
Well, you think about it. I mean, in 27 1/3 innings coming into tonight, he'd only given up 27 hits. I mean, a hit per innings pitch is very good. I mean, that's the benchmark. I mean, you don't want to, anybody that's at their innings pitch with hits or below, that's considered pretty good. But you add 18 walks to that, that's a lot of base runners for Jorge. Walks always seem to be a part of the equation when he gives up runs.
He finds the strike zone to Yadier Molina. Ground balls, fly balls this year just about even. So if you're thinking double play, you got to keep it down there, but he bounces it in the dirt, and a wild pitch advances Hector Luna. And again, with De La Rosa, he can really take a ball game. There's no doubt he's got this stuff, but he can slow its pace down tragically. And that happens with pitches like this.
And a pitch down in the strike zone. I guess Damian would probably tell you should have had it and kept it closer to him, but with that wild pitch, there's going to be no double play.
The 1-1 inside, 2-1 the count. We mentioned Molina singling back in the second inning. 11 hits in his last 31 at bats. So if you think about how far he has come, I mean, He's hitting just 206 with that run. 3-1 the count. Now Damian bounces out from behind there.
I mean, those pitches not even close. I mean, he got ahead 0-1 to Molina, but the next 3 pitches not even close to the strike zone.
Joe Winklesass will grab a ball and start getting loose. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I mean, they're thinking he's got to be hurting it because.
Well, it's that nail. Remember, he split the nail in his last start 2 starts ago, and it really affected his pitches. And Dan Wright, the assistant athletic trainer, going out there. Ned Yost talking to Mark Wegner. You want to take a look at that finger?
That's a shame. We were talking with Ned Yost about it before the game. Ned deemed it a, quote, non-issue for De La Rosa. But it appears it's a big issue already again.
Not sure what you can do about a split fingernail, even a blister. Can't put a Band-Aid around it because then you have absolutely no feel for that baseball.
This is after his last outing against Washington. And he takes a peek. It all appears to be intact there, but he certainly was giving it a good long look.
Yeah, the friction on the end of that finger on that fingernail when he throws his breaking ball, I would imagine that's where the pressure comes from, and that's where the discomfort arises. And I mean, you can't really grip the baseball all that well. It affects your command. Goes without saying.
Well, and understand, Ned Yost and Dan Wright went out. De La Rosa did not ask for them, but it's almost as if, Bill, they went out assuming that something must be wrong. There's no reason for him to be missing like this.
Well, he's walked 3 of the last 5 batters. I mean, that'll raise a red flag after not walking a batter in the first 2 innings.
So Dan and Ned will stand side by side for now anyway. All right, here's Aaron Miles, switch hitter, batting right-handed, nowhere close. 1-0 the count. We're doing our best to take a peek at it, as you can see, with some of our different camera angles, and just don't really see any sort of blood around that nail that we saw. A little bit of bleeding going on. You see a little bit on his pants there. 2-0 the count to Miles.
And nothing more frustrating in that dugout or out in that field when you have a guy out there that just can't throw the ball over the plate. Nothing you can do. Just sit and watch. And Chad Muller has a very good phrase that he uses in these situations. The hitter becomes a non-factor in the game when you're throwing the ball all over the place. It's like he's not even there.
Yeah, when Chad said that to me a couple of weeks ago, he said Jorge is most successful when he gets the hitter involved. I'd never heard it put that way.
It's true.
But when you're missing, the hitter is not involved.
I mean, he go up there without a bat. I mean, really, hasn't even come close.
3-1 the count. And this leash pretty much has to be very short. If there's something physically wrong, which there must be, you can't let this go on if he doesn't find the strike zone. Six to 2 the score. De La Rosa. Whether he's battling a finger, he must be at some level. Although Ned was again much more optimistic before the game, telling us it's a non-factor at this point. Seems like it is again. You can see just a little bit on that middle finger.
That'll probably be it.
Yeah, I'm thinking they got to get him out.
At least you think.
Joe Winklesass comes on, whether it's the blister or whether it's a lack of focus. Jorge De La Rosa cannot go anymore in this game, and that's a shame. He had good stuff first couple of innings. Well, Jorge De La Rosa, you could see a little bit of open skin on that middle finger, and it's enough to have had him lose the strike zone completely and send him to the bench. De La Rosa was dominating in the first inning. I mean, he came out blowing folks away. Eckstein and Taguchi and Encarnacion and Spezio. Every last one of them sent back to the bench with wicked stuff. There's a good example, a curveball to Spezio. But then
Oh, and that was it after
he
that
lost
first inning. It really was a struggle. He wasn't able to really have a clean inning after that. The Cardinals were able to put runners on base every inning, including the first, a couple of base hits in the second, a base hit and a couple of doubles and a walk in the third inning, and now 3 walks in a row have the Brewers in jeopardy of losing the lead here today. 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, only 2 runs so far on the card of De La Rosa. Joe Winklesass comes on, and hopefully he's going to get that sinker down in the strike zone and get a ground ball, maybe turn 2.
Well, you're speaking of Dave Duncan's son earlier, Chris Duncan, called up from AAA to replace that roster spot vacated by Albert Pujols. And so far, very good work for Chris Duncan. Hitting .272 with 6 homers, 25 RBIs in AAA.
A big kid, just like his father. Dave Duncan, one of the few pitching coaches in all of baseball that was not a pitcher, he was a catcher.
You see the base runners, Luna, Molina, and Miles, all walked to load things up. Good movement there, had him swinging right over the top of it. Sinker ball pitchers certainly, as Mark Mulder has done for the night, they pitch to contact, but sometimes it moves enough to get a swing and a miss.
It started down the middle, ends up on the outside corner. Good pitch.
We'll do it again, 1-2. So this game is a tough game to figure, isn't it, folks? Just when you think you can predict what may happen, Mark Mulder's done. 3 innings, 5 hits, 6 runs, all earned. De La Rosa, who blew the Cardinals away in the first inning, is done. 3 innings, he ended up walking 4, striking out 4. 2-2 the count. De La Rosa threw 69 pitches, Mulder 67. And now both these bullpens will take the game
In the fourth
inning on.
Yeah. That's early.
Nowhere to put him. It's 3-2. Luna, Molina, and Miles all walked. On 3-2. Got it. There's that pitch we talk about. You pitch to contact, but it moves so much. You get a swing and a miss.
Now you got a strikeout on ball 4. That would have been a run had Duncan been patient enough to let it go. That wasn't even close. I mean, watch where that ball ends up. Damian Miller has to backhand it. It moves so much. So the Brewers pick up a break. Good luck striking this next guy out.
No, now you dream of a ground ball. That was that no-seam fastball that Joe throws that we've told you about, or the dry spitter as they call it. He dropped the arm angle down a little bit, and boy, did that bad boy run. Very shallow in the outfield. Double play depth infield. Nearly hit it. David struck out looking in the first. So you would imagine he won't strike out again until next Friday. And he grounds it out in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, you got to feel fortunate in this situation. You come in and give up only 1 run. You want to try and keep Molina from scoring in this situation. But it'd be almost a miracle to get out of this without a run scoring.
Well, you make a good point, Bill. You make a big mistake if you throw your perfect pitch and Eckstein doubles and scores all 3.
You try and get that sinker. You get on top of it, maybe get a ground ball double play, and you get out of it. But certainly you want to keep it in the infield.
Two and 1 to count. Jose Akendo is a great utility player back in his day. 3rd base coach, sending the signs out. On the ground into center field, a base hit. Brady charging hard. They'll stop the runner in Molina, who doesn't run well. And David Eckstein, who they have nicknamed Just Enough, hits that one just enough into the outfield, but certainly hurts.
Man, in no way that Molina was going to be able to score on that. You mentioned he's the catcher, doesn't run all that well. And Brady Clark with Eckstein up was playing as shallow as you can be. Got to that ball very quickly. And it was a sinker. He got it on the ground, but Eckstein able to punch it into center field with Brady Clark playing shallow. No chance to score 2 on that base hit.
RBI number 16 for David. You were talking about Yadier Molina, who's now at 3rd. Molina at 3rd is clearly Carl Lewis, though, in comparison to his brother Benji Molina. There was a play, I don't know if you saw it. It was one of the plays of the day or of the week on one of the channels, and 3rd baseman making the play. It was a ground ball. He dove, fell into the dugout. Teammates lifted him out, still threw out Molina, the brother. Went on the disabled list for 15 days. When he came off, he threw him out. Here's So Taguchi. Thought a little bad humor might break things up, get a double play ground ball here. So has enjoyed his chances with the bases loaded. That's almost ridiculous there. And that's where it'll hurt you, just like that.
Yeah, tough guy to pitch to because he is a hacker and a slasher. You don't have to throw him strikes for him to hit the ball hard. He looked bad on a couple of swings, and then you throw what you think is a pretty good breaking ball, and he'll just slice it down the line and right. Tough guy to play defensively. That's why they've got him pretty much straight up.
And he's another guy. We talk about Roland, who's on deck, who is hot. 2 weeks ago, So Taguchi was hitting about 238. And he has just slapped them all over the diamond to raise that average. Inside 3-1, the average all the way up now for Soto, 291. They may be without Albert Pujols, but you just cannot help them like they have been helped this inning. Those 3 walks make it 4. Hard that this game is now where it is. 6-4 and a base hit away from tying it. Four walks in the inning, 1 hit.
And now you got the troublesome part of the order coming up, don't you? You got Roland, you got Encarnacion coming up. These are the 2 run producers, and you've done it by walking the bottom of the order. And the only out recorded in this inning was a pitch out of the strike zone on 3-2.
Roller out toward 3rd. Cirillo got it in time for the 2nd out. Another run scores. It is now 6-5. All 3 walks, by the way, have come around to score. Runners on 2nd and 3rd now. And for Scott Rolen, 37 RBIs this year. And for De La Rosa, a start that started out oh so positive. Again, if you're just going to look at the line score in the morning, doesn't look good at all. 3 innings, 5 earned runs. Want to know the count, not to be Mr. Doom and Gloom. Milwaukee still leads in this game and looks to add on. It's just been a disappointing half inning.
Well, no doubt about it. It's been a disappointing outing for De La Rosa, excluding that first inning. You just kind of wonder if the Brewers are going to have him miss a start or maybe take him out of that rotation to, maybe figure out a way to heal up that hand. You can't continue to go through that. I mean, that's 3 starts in a row now.
Big 2-out batter up on the pitcher Winklesasto. 2-0. 3 and up. You can tell it's driving him mad right now. And who can blame him, folks?
What do you do? There's nothing you can do. Guy can't throw strikes. There's nothing anybody can do.
There you go, right down the heart. 3-1.
Defense just stands out there. The bullpen's wondering who's next. Damian Miller doesn't know what to put down. I mean, let alone set up a hitter in this situation. You're just hoping somebody throws a strike.
Three and 2 the count.
And it's a very lonely situation if you're catching in this type of a game. Just put a finger down and you just pray it goes over the plate.
Full count, 2 outs. Runners on second and third, and the pitch. Fouled it off. Brewers pitchers have thrown 37 pitches this inning, and De La Rosa may be questioning his luck and maybe his fate at this point. 3-2 pitch, ball 4. They're loaded. That is 5 walks in the inning. This crowd's getting restless. You're getting restless. Ned's getting restless. Mike's getting restless. Damian's getting restless. But he's got to stay calm.
It's not often you bat around and the opposition only gets 1 hit. That's not something you see every day.
Outside. 1-0 the count. Joe, who had a small sip of coffee with the Braves a couple of years ago, battled his way back, was called up by the Brewers all the way from Double-A, as that one is rolled foul. Big league appearance came in 1999 for Atlanta. Had disappeared from the game, was a pitching coach, small college, upstate New York. Signed with the Brewers at a tryout camp in January in Arizona. Alan Simpson warming in the pen. Two and 1. Spezio 0 for 2, struck out looking and popped up to second. The 2-1 pitch. Belts it down the line. To the corner it goes. It is in there. 1 run is in. Another run comes on around. Shooting on around the slide. Encarnacion is safe. And the St. Louis Cardinals lead the Milwaukee Brewers 8-6. Again, the St. Louis Cardinals lead the Brewers 8-6. Unbelievable.
Now Spezio gets a pitch up in the strike zone. That sinker that did not sink Straight as a string just inside that right field line, and good speed on the bases. Everybody comes around to score. So the Cardinals have put up 8 runs in the last 2 innings. And every one of the 6 walks tonight have come around to score.
Two and 0. The 10th Cardinal to bat in this inning is Hector Luna. He started it all off with a walk. Eventually came around to score. Scott Spiezio with a double and 3 RBIs. And for Spiezio, it continues a nice trend. It's a trend that we talked about. If you're playing without Albert Pujols, everyone take one step forward and help out. And that's what Scott just did there. The 2-1 pitch, and he fouled it off. You know, going back for Scott Spiezio last year in Seattle, we talked about Jeff Cirillo's struggles in Seattle. Spiezio last year hit .064 in 29 games for the Mariners. The year before that, he had .215 for the Mariners. A long way removed from one of the really the greatest single performances in postseason history for Scott Spiezio. There's strike 3. See if you can explain that one, folks, because I can't. Glad to have you back. Bottom of the 4th inning, Milwaukee. Well, guess who's got to go back to work now? The Brewers at 1 point led in 6-0 to this game. Our Aflac trivia question answer. Active pitcher. I think it's Mark Mulder. Won 15 or more games in a season over the last 5 straight years. Mark Mulder, as his pitching coach Dave Duncan looks on. Mulder no longer in this game, ironically enough. 3 innings of work. 5 hits, 6 runs, all earned, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, 67 pitches. De La Rosa really tagged after he left the ball game as well. Just lost the strike zone altogether.
Now the right-handers for the Brewers did the job. We said that in the beginning of the ball game. Mulder very tough. Held the Brewer lefties hitless, but the right-handers got the job done. Jorge De La Rosa, you just have to be concerned about that finger and what the Brewers are going to do with that number 5 spot in the rotation.
Chris Duncan is at first base. And the right-hander Josh Hancock fires strike 1. 28-year-old right-hander on for the 24th time this year. Majority of the time he's been pretty darn dependable. And there's Chris Duncan now at first. Duncan stays in that 9 spot. And the pitcher spot, Hancock, in the 5 spot for the Cardinals. So because of that double switch, a good night for Scott Spiezio. He's done.
Now the double switch ordinarily means that pitcher's going to stay out there for a while anyway, and so that Tony La Russa doesn't have to use pinch hitters. I would imagine it's going to be 2 or 3 for Hancock here tonight.
1 week ago, he came out of the bullpen, Josh Hancock, and worked 4 innings. And he struck out 4 in an extra inning game, was eventually tagged with a loss in the 14th inning. Josh Hancock working in that game against the Chicago Cubs. At home, a 5-4 loss in 14 innings as Brady Clark goes down on strikes. Gabe Gross pinch hitting in the pitcher spot, so the Brewers will give the baseball to another pitcher. Look like Alan Simpson still working. Gross got a couple of starts this week after Jeff Jenkins collided with Prince Fielder, as both were trying to run down a pop-up. And the starts were good to Gabe Gross. Matter of fact, he's got 4 hits on this homestand, 2 of them homers. He's driven in 4 runs. And Billy appears to be, after what was a very dry May, cranking it back up again.
I guess he had to, grow into the role as coming off the bench. You know, he got off to a great start in the beginning of the season because, you know, he really had his swing groove. He played just about every day down in spring training, get some consistent playing time, and after a while, he just lost it. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that would happen to a player after spring training, but you know, as time goes on, you learn how to stay ready, what to do in between at bats, and all of a sudden now he's starting to be productive once again. But his very good start really was the result of a lot of playing time in spring training.
Good looking breaking ball on the inside corner. 1-2 the count. Gross thought he would hold up, thought it would be a ball, but it wasn't. St. Louis with 8 unanswered runs in the 3rd and the 4th inning. Lead it 8-6. Two and two the count just off the plate.
And Hancock, a guy that's going to sink the fastball. He'll throw a slider and an occasional changeup. Used to have a curveball, really didn't throw enough strikes with it, but now it's really the fastball and the slider that he's able to work with, and he's throwing a lot of strikes.
He went around there, or did he? Yes, he did. Good call. It looked like he went around. So back-to-back strikeouts. Good hard bender down into the dirt. Sends Gross back to the dugout.
As that slider we're talking about, I mean, it is hard. It breaks very late, which is ideal. That's what a pitcher wants. The later it breaks, the tougher it is to pick up, and able to get the check swing, and that's a strikeout.
Cubs lead Cincinnati 6-4. That game's in the top of the 9th inning in Cincinnati. 6-4 that score. St. Louis, Milwaukee both watching that one very closely. Start of play tonight again, the St. Louis Cardinals, who have been struggling. Losers of 5 of their last 6, including getting swept by Cincinnati. 1/2 game back. Houston 6.5 back. Milwaukee 7.5 back. Good pitch, 1-1. Now Ricky tonight doubled in a run back in the 2nd inning. He thought long and hard about a triple as it was in left center field. Eventually came around to score on Jeff Cirillo's single.
And that's the thing about Ricky Weeks. I mean, he runs so well. You don't want to take a chance of getting thrown out at third base when he can score easily on a single from second base.
Jose Capian. The 1-2. That pitch is low. 2-2 the count. Very different defense employed by the Cardinals for the Brewers leadoff hitter. Because you remember the defense the Brewers employ for the Cardinals leadoff hitter, David Eckstein. A lot more shallow, a lot closer to the action in the outfield. Boy, a late call of strike 3, and Ricky doesn't like it. Mark Wagner on a pitch that's up and in has Ricky Weeks pretty upset. He'll finish the conversation, say his piece. You be an umpire at home. What do you think? Pretty good.
Hi, everybody. Back at the stadium. St. Louis leading Milwaukee 8-6. Jeremy Jeffress now joins me. And, of course, you remember his name earlier this week was the Brewers' top pick in the amateur draft and signed a contract with Milwaukee and worked out with the club today. And, Jeremy, first of all, welcome to Milwaukee. Good to see you in a Brewer hat. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Now, you were out in the bullpen today throwing for Ned Yost and Mike Maddox out there. Tell us how that bullpen session went.
It went great. You know, Maddox, he's a great pitching coach. He helped me a lot. He helped me a lot while I was out there. He told me velocity is not all the key, but, you know, placement is where it's at.
You know, he took a good look at you, kind of walked around and watched you throw certain pitches and whatnot. What other tips do you get really quickly from a guy like that? What are some of the other things he was looking at?
Well, I think he was looking at how I stayed back and, my good mechanics, and he gave me a few pointers on my mechanics.
Molina leads off with a double, and the Cardinals continue to pour it on here. And this is, let me ask you this, from a pitcher's perspective. I know you're only 18 years old and you got a ways to go before you join the big league club like this. A little bit surprised at what you've seen out here a little bit. This is tough from a pitcher's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. The guys on the Cardinals are jumping on the pitchers, But, pitchers keep the ball low and they'll be fine.
Now tell me about growing up, who you idolized as a pitcher and who you've kind of modeled yourself after.
Well, growing up, I love Florida. That's a great place to be, and Dontrelle Willis is my favorite player growing up. He's a great long pitcher. He strides and he goes after the guy. He's very aggressive. I like Dontrelle.
What do you like, the aggressiveness? What do you like about his demeanor? I mean, you seem to be a pretty good guy off the field. You've got some things together. Obviously, you're making a big jump from high school. I guess what's it like to make that jump now from high school to the pros? Is it still kind of exciting running around in your head right now?
Oh, yeah, it's very exciting. I never dreamed I'd jump from high school all the way to the pros. But, me, I'm just playing baseball and I'm playing the game I love.
What other sports did you like growing up?
Basketball.
Yeah? What'd you do on the basketball court?
Three-point shooter.
Going for the extra points, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Now, what do you expect a timeline probably nobody really knows, but I'm sure you have some personal goals. What are they at 18 years old, and when would you like to see yourself in a Brewer uniform here?
I'd like to see myself here in about 2 years. I think I'm gonna work hard, do what I got to do in Arizona, and work hard to get to the big leagues.
All right, well, Jeremy, thanks so much for your time, and got to pull these guys back, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, let's send it back upstairs.
Well, very good stuff, and good shots of him before the game. Great interview, Craig, and I tell you, what a classy young man.
Yeah, I met him down in the runway downstairs outside the Brewer clubhouse when I came in today, and seems like he has his head on his shoulders pretty well.
Jeff Jenkins making the play, tagging and heading to third. Molina.
One question I have for you, partner. Now, Jeremy Jeffress is 18 years old, and as he was growing up as a young man, he followed Dontrelle Willis. Dontrelle's what, 23 years old?
Point well made.
Wow.
In other words, we're all getting older fast.
Boy, oh boy.
Dontrelle seems like that, and I see your point. Dontrelle seems like he's about that young man's age.
Yeah, but Dontrelle's been around, what, 3 years? Amazing. Yeah, great athlete. They say he throws awfully hard, and the mechanics pretty good as well.
On the ground, Ricky Weeks cannot make the play. He does, and he got him at first. Nice recovery, Ricky Weeks. Boy, and with that miscue, I know Molina can't run well. But, I mean, really had the door swung wide open, and he still stands at third.
No, that's just terrible base running by the Cardinal catcher because, a ground ball to second base with the infield in, you got to take a couple of crow hops toward home plate, and once that ball goes off his chest, you can just walk home because there's no way Ricky's going to be able to make a recovery and make a throw to the plate. So a big break for Milwaukee. Yadier Molina going back, he's caught in no man's land, and right there he realized he should have scored. Not very good base running.
Now that's a huge break for Milwaukee. Got to get Eckstein here. Cappy on a chance to work out of it now. Eckstein singled in a run back in the fourth inning. Struck out looking and grounded out to third. Shot left field. Ouch, that hurts. David Eckstein into the corner with a double. Now the Cardinals lead it 9-6. 9 runs on the scoreboard in the last 2 2/3 innings for St. Louis.
Well, just when you think you can get out of the inning, that guy comes up, and he did it in the fourth inning with a base hit to center field with the bases loaded. Able to pick on a pitch up in the strike zone. Kind of jumped after it, didn't he? Trying to get those hips around and rake going right down the line and left. Tough out.
1-0 the count to So Taguchi.
And we came on the air today and said this is still a very good offensive club, even without Albert Pujols. You remember, Jim Edmonds not in the lineup today. That's how good they are offensively with those two in the lineup, but they're still a pretty good offensive team. Got some pretty good hitters. They make good contact.
Eckstein with a huge secondary lead to right that may come into play. They send him on around. The throw is cut off. The run scores. Taguchi in a rundown. Is anybody at second? Absolutely not. And it all started, obviously, with some timely hitting, Bill, but David Eckstein on his secondary lead was halfway to third base.
A good job by Prince Fielder to cut it off. The problem was when Ricky Weeks got the baseball from Prince, he threw it too soon. And there was nobody at second base. You have to run Taguchi hard back toward first base. Everybody does what they're supposed to do in this play. Jeff Jenkins hits the cutoff man. Prince cuts it off. He gets it to second base. The throw right here too soon. And now nobody at second base. You got to run him back a little bit harder than that. And that's why Taguchi was able to get back into second base. Well, when it rains, it pours.
And that man needs an umbrella. 10-6, the Cardinals lead the Brewers. What a turnaround for St. Louis. Minus Albert Pujols. To the backstop. And it kicks a long way away. Kicks in front of the dugout, and Jeff Cirillo picks it up. Like a pachinko machine bouncing around over there.
And Damian got a glove on it, but it hit so hard back there that it went all the way around, about toward third base by that Cardinal dugout. Check this out. He wanted it away. It was up and in. He got a piece of it. And so Taguchi takes third base. He wants to score. I mean, a nice job by Jeff Cirillo to follow him over there. He actually picked up the baseball.
3-0 the count to Scott Rowland. Let's see, Dontrell, born in Oakland, January 12th, 1982, turned 24 a few days after this New Year's. And they will walk Scott Rowland. So that young man, I would imagine, at 18, 6 years the junior of Dontrell Willis. Well, you figure makes sense. His senior year was this year. Last year, his junior year, watching Dontrell go 22-10. His sophomore year, Dontrell was a 10-game winner, and of course, his freshman year in high school, Dontrell was busy helping to pitch the Marlins to World Series fame in 2003. So it makes sense, doesn't it?
Growing up, yeah. He's still growing up.
Boy, did he pitch a beauty a couple of days ago, Dontrell in San Francisco. I would imagine made that phone ring again. A lot of interest for Dontrell Willis, and you can sense Larry Mindfest just sitting back and very quietly letting folks call as the price goes higher and higher and higher.
Sitting in the catbird seat, isn't he?
Oh, you bet.
That's a good seat to be in.
Well, when you're totally and completely rebuilding your club, that's one of the last huge chips that you can spend if you're the Florida Marlins. No, wait.
Miguel Cabrera over there.
Those are two kids, though, as you rebuild that you'd honestly like to keep. One's 24. What's Cabrera, about 23, 24?
Yeah.
I mean, it costs you money to keep them, but I would imagine money well spent. Oh, and 1 the count. Miguel Cabrera. He's 23 years old. Boy, turned 23 on April 18th. The Joe Girardi-led Florida Marlins. We'll have a handful of young first-round draft picks, watching them very closely. Hacking at a high slider. He helped Capion out there, 0-2. Chicago trying to wrap things up in Cincinnati. Bottom of the ninth, they lead it 6-4. Boston beat Texas. That's the final, 4-3. Ryan Howard, home run number 22, as Philadelphia trails Washington 6-3. Game's in the bottom of the fourth inning. Houston handing it to Atlanta 7-2. That game's middle of the seventh inning in Houston. The 0-2. He wanted it up, still effective, right down the middle. Bill Hall under it. 2 more runs for the St. Louis Cardinals. They lead it by a score of 10-6. See if the Brewers can get it going. The veteran Jeff Cirillo will lead things off. Billy Hall to follow, and El Caballo.
Tonight's Tavern of the Game winner is Pump 24 in Adams. If the Tavern contact calls the Brewers by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning at 414-902-4572, they'll get 40 tickets to a Friday night game in the Miller Lite Beer Pen for this year. This offer courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite.
Way to keep it together, partner. Nice job through that read. Need a giant bottle opener for that head. Can you imagine the bottle opener to pop that top? Here's Jeff Cirillo. Come on, boys. Let's make it a ball game. Down by 4. And that pitch in and off the plate to the ever patient Jeff Cirillo. Walked and scored in the first inning. Singled in a run in the second. That single is first hit against the Cardinals this year. 1 for 7 against Cardinals pitching. 1-1 the count. Saw the other day where the Dodgers are going to shut down Eric Gagne now for a couple of days. Came back pitching pretty effectively after that nerve removal surgery, but some inflammation, some discomfort. So to their disappointment, it'll be a few days until he pitches again. Good breaking ball, 1-2.
Yeah, the Cardinals did the same with Jason Isringhausen the last few days, and they kind of shut him down, give him a couple of mental days. And
yeah, his was a little more mental cleansing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Tough job, that closer job. Just ask Derek Turnbow.
One and 2 the count. Inside and off the plate. '83 home runs coming in, 84 this season for Milwaukee. Brewers are on pace to hit 220 for the season. That would break the franchise record set by the Wallbangers in 1982. Well, that puts it into perspective. I mean, we're far enough along now to pace it out a bit. Right now, Rillo, though, with just 2 pops, he needs to be a base runner.
Yeah, Brewers need to add on to that total here very quickly. Get a couple of men on and knock a couple out and get closer to that number you were talking about.
In the I didn't know that category, very stunned, Minnesota is trailing Baltimore at home 5-3. Baltimore, of course, was knocked off by Milwaukee on their way to that championship. 5-3, Minnesota trails Baltimore in the 7th. The 2-2. That one to the backstop. And here's the point that I was getting to. You know, looking at the numbers today, Joe Mauer leading the majors in hitting, folks. It's June. Joe Mauer's hitting .379.
Kid can hit, can he?
Wow.
And he can hit left-handed pitching. And we saw that when the Twins were here. I mean, he was red hot. He's got a nice swing. And handles that pitching staff very well. That was the concern about Mauer with the Twins. A young catcher, you know, handling that pitching staff. He calls a nice game.
Good at bat so far by Jeff Cirillo. By the way, the last Twin to lead the American League in hitting, actually led the majors as well, was the late Kirby Puckett, who did it in '89 at .339. I mean, folks, Joe Mauer, if you're only a National League fan, that ought to jump up and slap you into at least paying attention. Look at that season he's having.
And when you say you can't be a big-time player if you're from the Midwest with the weather, Joe Mauer, right from the Twin Cities. Went to Cretin High School. That's where Paul Molitor went.
Good at bat for Arillo, but he loses the battle. The Brewers not on this next trip. Obviously, the Brewers have a very short trip coming up to Cincinnati. But on the trip after that, they will see Joe Mauer and the Minnesota Twins. And a unique road trip, to say the least. The Brewers, the 23rd through July 2nd, go to Kansas City for 3, Chicago for 4, and Minnesota for 3.
Stay close to home. Don't mind that.
It is a Midwestern trot. Looking to drive it in out of the ballpark. Hall in the hole, 0-1. Billy Singleton scored back in the first inning, grounded out to short in the second. Walked him off for the second time this year in the 10th inning yesterday. Another home run coming on a walk-off variety. May 14th, Mother's Day, on a Sunday against the New York Mets. Yeah, Billy is I mean, a lot of talk about his bats over the last few weeks. Pink bats, explosive bats, bats left at home plate. A lot of focus on his bats.
No such thing as bad publicity, right?
I guess not. On the ground, Scott Rowland, automatic. And for Bill Hall, 3 walk-off home runs in his career. The other one coming a couple of years ago against Danny Graves. That one may be the most interesting because of that second gear that ball had. And here's Mother's Day.
Interesting that 2 of the 3 walk-offs for Bill Hall, including this one right here, that happened yesterday to the opposite field. Too many middle infielders or infielders period that have the power to do that like Billy does.
Oh, and 1 the count to Carlos Lee. Hey, by the way, hang with us. We'll head on out to the bullpen. A conversation expected with bullpen coach Bill Castro, and his troops are already into battle and have been for quite a while. He's basically just sitting by the phone right now, waiting for who's next. The 1-1. 1-2 the count. 10-10-0 for the Cardinals. 6-5-0 for the Brewers. We'll have Billy on that as long as the Cardinals are all right with it. The 1-2. Fouls it off to the right side. The one on the right, pitching much better. The one on the left, we'd all give everything that we had in our baseball fund anyway to get him back. It's still very slowly moving in the healing process. The 1-2. High fly, he just missed it. Oh, well-placed fastball kept it off the sweet spot. Hang out with us. We'll head on out to the bullpen. Talk with Billy Castro.
Over the last 3 outings, he had trouble with the finger, and it seems like it gets worse about 3rd inning. Had to be working on it. They cut the finger, some in the corner of the fingernail, and try to ease some of the pressure in the corner of the finger. And I guess after so many pitches, he gets to get back to the same thing.
Quickly, Davey, Jose Capian out there. When he warmed up in the pen, everything looked strong for him.
Yeah, he looked pretty good down here. I think he's right now he's having a little bit of doubt in his mind about letting the ball go. But I saw the last couple he let the ball go this inning.
All right, thank you. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
And of course, moments ago, talking about the blistered finger or the cut finger, whichever it may be, for left-handed starting pitcher Jorge De La Rosa. That, of course, Billy Castro joining us out in the bullpen during our commercial break, and a treat to get the inside track. And, you know, it's funny, you can ask a simple question and you always get a little bit more, and that's what you do with Wham-O. You just throw it out there, a simple question about Capion, but then he expounds upon it to let us know that maybe he's doubting himself a little bit right now.
Himself, not trusting his stuff, and that's hard to believe, but I think every pitcher goes through that, particularly if you're struggling a little bit. You try and be a little bit too fine, you get behind the count, and things become worse for you. But it's interesting talking to Billy about that fingernail for Jorge De La Rosa. They have been proactive in that Brewer training room. They're trying to cut that finger down just a little bit, but after a while, the wear and tear as he pitches, it just becomes, get to a point where you just can't pitch with it. That's why you got to believe. I think he's going to be sidelined maybe for a turn or so. You just can't continue to ask a guy to go out there. You can't do that to your bullpen. Every fifth day. And we'll see what they decide to do.
This is certainly not to lay blame at the feet of De La Rosa because of what has occurred, but simply put, that fingernail that's acting up, you almost want to give it the other finger symbol because you're that frustrated with it. That's really the story of this game tonight.
Man, no doubt about it. I mean, Brewers certainly with all the momentum in the world going into that top of the third inning, and it just the brakes were put on this ball game because Delo just couldn't find the strike zone, whether it was the finger or not.
One and make it 2-2 the count to Luna.
Yeah, the one thing you're taught as a pitcher, you get a big lead, you throw strikes, and he just couldn't do it.
3-2 the count to Hector Luna, who tonight is singled, walked, and struck out. Now he walked and struck out all in the fourth inning. White Sox 2, Cleveland 1, top of the sixth inning. Hot shot. Jeff Cirillo cannot make the play. That'll roll for a while. Down into the corner. Carlos in after that ball, easing it after that ball, so much so that Luna slides in safely at third.
Well, Hector Luna getting around those bases in pretty good shape. It looked as though Carlos was shaded just a little bit toward left center. It was a breaking ball, slider on 3-2, just inside that left field line, and Carlos Lee just not able to get there in time. Hector Luna screaming around second base and got in there without a play. Seemed like it took Carlos forever to get down the line.
So Luna, a ball that hugs that line, goes into the corner. You hate to see a ground ball get past your third baseman and have the base runner pass over the same path that the ball just took on the ground moments before. No balls and 2 strikes to count to Yadier Molina. Boy, he's been jacking up that average. A couple of weeks ago, he was in the high 150s, 160s. Tonight, he's gone from 201 to 211. And nights like this, Brady Clark can talk about nights like this. When you're down there around the Mendoza line, how important it is to have a good couple of weeks to feel better about yourself. But it's hard to dig out of those holes. It is hard, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, once you get to about 100, 120 at bats, it becomes extremely difficult to get that average up exponentially. Brady Clark, started it at about 100 at bats, and all of a sudden he got red hot, and that average kept going up pretty considerably. But Molina coming in with 164 at bats, just barely over 200. It takes an awful lot of 2-for-4s to get that average up to about the 240, 250 range.
Fires that bat at the baseball just to hang in there. At the end of 2 innings of play, the Brewers led St. Louis 6-0. 10 unanswered runs for the Cardinals as we play here in the 6th. Have the Brewers in a pretty big hole. Down the line again. Foul this time. Game at Yankee Stadium being delayed by rain in the 7th inning. Oakland leading 6-1 over the New York Yankees. Frank Thomas has 15 home runs this season. He homered again.
Yeah. Frank Thomas, Jim Thome. I mean, who is going to be the comeback player of the year? I guess those are the two odds-on favorites right now.
The 0-2. Waves over the top of that one. Big strikeout there on a slider.
Yeah, that slider much better than that 3-2 slider to Hector Luna. Check it out. Well, he can do that when you're ahead in the count. The slider that he threw to Luna was more of a get me over something under the fastball breaking ball, and he pounded it down the line for a triple. Molina went fishing for that one.
So a big out there. Leave that runner at third. Here's Aaron Miles. Fastball outside corner, strike one. Well, he turned that one loose. Billy Castro talking about not turning it loose, guiding it in there a bit. Not that time. Tapian's got an interesting look there with the glove. He's got that index finger. He's got a slot built in for it, but he keeps it outside of that slot. Lifts it into right field. Jeff Jenkins is under it, and the Brewers stop the bleeding a bit. Let's see if they can get something going offensively. Put your rally cap. 10-6, St. Louis up by 4. It's the bottom of the 6th inning. Hey, this Sunday, the first 10,000 kids 16 and under receive a Brady Clark mini bobblehead doll. It is compliments of our good friends with Century Foods. For ticket information, call 414-902-4000 or visit us online at MilwaukeeBrewers.com. Prince fielder Damian Miller. Brady Clark getting a good long look at the new left-hander out there. Boy, all pitchers will gather around, or hitters I should say, to look at a new pitcher. Tyler Johnson. Look at that opponent's batting average, which means, yeah, there's been a few walks in 8 1/3, 6 walks. Opponent's hitting just 138, but that ERA up a bit, nearly 5.5. Left-hander Tyler Johnson goes to work against Prince fielder. Brewers need 4 to get back in this game. Is this a start? Deep center field. Taguchi going back. He's got room. Fielder a bid for extra bases. Came up a bit shy in the triangle out there. It's a pretty wicked hack, though. Lefty against lefty.
Yeah, kind of the same situation as Carlos Lee early in the ball game. He let it ball get a little bit further back in that zone, and unfortunately for Prince, he didn't pull it. Carlos Lee able to pull it, just able to drop it over that wall. This time, Toe Taguchi able to corral it, but still he gave it a pretty good ride.
One 1-0 the count to Damian Miller. Miller grounded back to the mound and walked in the 3rd inning. Looking for his first hit against the Cardinals this year. Well, you talk about comeback ability. This club has come back so many times this year, but this would be one of those that would be a wonderful elixir for what I would imagine is a strong ailment down in that dugout right now. I mean, it just has got to have one of those tough feelings when you lead 6-0. Boy, if this could be come from behind win number 20, it may be the biggest. With all that has occurred. Two and two the count. I tell you, Bill, you got to give a lot of credit to these Cardinals relievers so far.
Yeah, they've been doing a nice job coming in. I mean, as much offense as the Cardinals have been able to put up with some help from the Brewer pitching staff, they really have brought some semblance of order to the game for the Cardinals. They've been throwing strikes, and the Brewers really have not been able to get anything going since the 2nd inning. Only had 1 base runner. That was a walk to Damian Miller.
Full count, 1 out. Hear that that one in your living room, folks. Mulder went 3, allowed 6. Hancock came in relief of Mulder. Josh Hancock, 2 hitless innings, not a walk and 3 strikeouts. I mean, that's a big step in the right direction. While the Cardinals were busy putting up runs, Milwaukee was offensively, as Bill said, shut down. Skied up toward that roof in center field. That's Taguchi, and that's the second out.
This week, the Fox Saturday baseball game of the week. The Indians visit the Windy City to take on the White Sox in a showdown between AL Central contenders. Coverage begins tomorrow at 12 o'clock in high definition, only on Fox. Once you go high def, you never come back. Outstanding.
The Detroit Tigers, everyone keeps asking, how long will that last? They keep winning. And it reminds you of teams in years gone by.
And you know why it's going to continue? Because they've got outstanding pitching. They can pitch with the best of them. I mean, your offense is going to go, up and down, and you keep your defense solid and pitching stays good. You win close games. That's what the Tigers have been able to do. Tigers with a team earned run average of 3.64. They've thrown 9 shutouts. Not bad, particularly in the American League.
The 0-2 outside, 1-2. We talked about the struggles for Jeff against left-handed pitching. He struck out back in the 3rd and walked and scored in the 2nd. For the Detroit Tigers, again, what has been a very magical season. Motown Kitties, as they like to call them in Detroit. And it's all about the pitching, as Bill mentioned. And let's not overlook a little bit of hitting, though.
Yeah, they can hit a little bit, and it's not a very good hitter's ballpark.
Oh, no.
But don't forget, the Detroit Tigers have committed only 33 errors this year. That's good for 4th in the American League. Pitching and defense.
Inside corner. Jenkins not happy about it. He's got a strong beef with home plate umpire Mark Wagner. Fires his bat away. Jenkins finishes a few words for Mark Wagner. Now Ned Yost will come out and talk with Mark Wagner. We'll update you when we come back. Sausages have exited the building. Let's sum things up with our game summary to this point. Brought to you by our good friends with Toyota. And didn't things look good early on? Smiles, everybody. Carlos Lee with a 3-run homer. It was 3-0. The Brewers eventually made it 6-0. But then Scott Spezia turned the game all the way back around with a 3 RBI double. St. Louis was on top by a score of 8-6. David Eckstein, a huge secondary lead, would score on this one. And then it didn't look so pretty at the end. A tough break for the Milwaukee Brewers as Taguchi scrambled on around. Taguchi singling home a run again. Milwaukee stunned right now to be down by a score of 10-6. Brian Schaus, left-hander, will go to work. And it'll start with Chris Duncan. Duncan grounded out the second, back in the 5th inning. Chad Moeller takes over behind home plate. Allows Damian Miller to take the rest of the night off as that bender sweeps outside. One and one the count. Broken bat rule. Here's a chance for Ricky Weeks. And he turns it into an out. Schaus, 37 years old, makes his home in Washington, Illinois. A couple of hours away from Milwaukee, about 2.5–3 hours. Born in Effingham, Illinois. Enrique Cruz was traded to the Rangers to acquire Schaus May 13th.
It's been a while since Schaus has been in a ball game. On the way back on Sunday against the Washington Nationals. Retired the only batter they faced, Nick Johnson. So the opportunities few and far between. Ned Yost has to be very careful when to use his only left-hander out of the bullpen. So I guess Ned figuring get him some work here tonight. Normally comes in for a left-hander or two, but it's his inning.
I mean, that's the ideal situation. We watched enough this year to know that in a perfect world, as Eckstein slaps that one into right for a base hit, David's had a great night. He's got 3 hits now, double, couple of singles, couple of RBIs, and a 2-run scored. Ideally, you have a Jim Edmonds type. You have a big power hitter from the left side. You bring him on, he gets him out, and that's it.
Well, he's much more effective against lefties, and the way he delivers the baseball, right-handers see the ball pretty well. You can see what we were talking about, only 4 pitches, he faced only 1 batter. And that's ideally what you want to see. Have that situational left-hander come in for maybe 2 or 3 hitters and then get him out of there, and you try to avoid having him face too many right-handed hitters.
0-1 the count on So Taguchi. Ten seasons Taguchi played for the Oryx Blue Wave. Worked in the same outfield as Ichiro. And then he became the team's top outfielder once Ichiro left before the 0-1 season. And it was early in his career, actually as a pro, that Taguchi was actually an infielder. Many Gold Gloves to follow in the outfield have proven that he made the right decision. This could be a double play if they hurry it to first. It is. Good looking play. Weeks to Hall on to fielder. 4-6-3 double play. It's getting late, boys. Wake those bats up. Glad to have you back. 10-6, St. Louis leading Milwaukee. And don't forget, fans, win a chance for your Little League team to play at Miller Park's Health Fair Field. And Subway's Take Little League to the Big Leagues contest. Pick up your entry form at any participating Subway store. Love all the new breads that they have at Subway.
Yeah, don't you like it? What's your favorite?
There's an oregano.
Parmesan?
An oregano, Parmesan, and you get the veggie. But you get every veggie.
Get the Asiago?
Yeah, I used to call that a Swego.
Be careful when you say that. Enunciate.
Enunciate. Asiago. And I used to call it a Swego. That's how hip I am.
Okay, that's safe.
Now that is safe, but I thought I was correct. That was the problem. Strike 1 to Brady Clark. Brad Thompson, 24-year-old right-hander, is working and has raised that ERA of late up a little bit as the breaking ball misses outside. Thompson has allowed runs, 10 overall, in 4 of his last 8 outings. That ERA was .52. It's still respectable, though, at 2.86. As Brady takes outside. (10-6), the Cardinals lead the Brewers. As that one is rolled foul. 2-2 the count into that Cardinals dugout. Mr. La Russa opting to clean the baseball there upon receiving it in the dugout. The 2-2. Brady tries to dump it into right field. Instead, it bounces around. Jim Edmonds at first base, by the way, getting some work in. Brady, base hit past a diving David Eckstein. So Brady Clark, 2 hits tonight. double RBI run scored.
Boy, Brady does a nice job staying on the baseball, doesn't he? I mean, not trying to do a whole lot with it. That ball had a big old break on it, stayed in the middle part of the plate. Watch how still he is. That front foot doesn't even move on that pitch. Just puts the head of the baseball, head of the bat on the baseball, and he gets a base hit. A classic contact hitter.
Chad Moeller hitless in 8 at-bats on the homestand, 1 for 4 against the Cardinals this year. As he bounces that one foul. It's part of a double switch. Moeller taking over the pitcher spot in the 6th spot for the Brewers. That's where Schaus exists. On a night like this, Bill, I would imagine if Moeller is not in the dugout when Damian gets the start, that he's in the bullpen helping out. That kind of how it goes for a number 2 catcher?
Well, absolutely. I mean, particularly the fact that the Brewers have a bullpen catcher in Marcus Hanel, and I would imagine that Chad sits in the dugout for probably 5 innings. Because ordinarily you only need 2 catchers out there when a manager wants to get 2 pitchers up, and that doesn't happen until later in the game. So let's sit in the dugout for the first 5-6 innings and then run down there. Marcus gets to do all the work early.
Marcus Hanel on the left, Matt Wise on the right. Matt was given the business. Derek Turnbull went and saw that new Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Aniston movie, The Breakup. I guess part of the filming went on at Wrigley Field. And in the movie, which I haven't seen yet, you could clearly see Matt Wise.
Really? What was he doing?
Vince Vaughn just sitting in the bullpen.
Really? Did they pay him for it?
I don't think he got paid.
Maybe a couple of burgers?
So, and of course, Wise and Turnbow both love movies like The Wedding Crasher, which Vaughn stars in. Chad Moeller out to third. 5, 4, 3. That's 2. $24,490 on a Friday night here at Miller Park. 2-4-4-9-0.
Started out happy tonight, didn't they?
They were all very excited.
Not as many Cardinal fans as you ordinarily see. You think?
Not as many as you normally see. The Cardinals travel well, though.
Yes,
to their credit, their fans.
Cubs #1, I would imagine, and then the Cardinals. At least in the National League.
Well, that's why when those 2 teams actually meet up, it's a sight to behold, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good work again by our fine Emmy Award-winning director, Mitch Riggin. Just say it, and here come the Cardinal fans.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I don't see as many red, it's those fringe fans that, want to root for the, the front-running team. And I think there's more and more Brewer fans that are on the fence. Fans that are on the fence are becoming Brewer fans because they're playing better baseball.
Grabbing up those tickets a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So you hope.
Yeah.
And you hope Milwaukee has one last breath in them tonight. Good strong. Come on, Maniac. Get it done for us. Look at the Maniac. He's mid-prayer, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't miss a game.
The 0-2. Breaking ball. You can grab first on that one. Maybe, just maybe, that's step 1 in that answered prayer. Let's see what happens. There's a big-time break, a strikeout on a breaking ball way into the dirt, and the Brewers and Weeks will take it.
Now to go down as a strikeout for John Thompson, and a wild pitch to allow him to get to first base. That one took an immediate right-hand turn on Molina, who probably should have kept it in front of him, but didn't.
So Ricky reaches on a strikeout. Ricky struck out a couple of times tonight, doubled in a run and scored. Here's Jeff Cirillo. If you are getting dreamy, folks, you can dream about a single and a blast, make it a one-run game. Bill Hull waits on deck. Perfect time at least to get 1 or 2 back here in the 7th inning. One and 0 the count. I tell you, Bill, the more Jeff gets a chance to play, the more he just does not swing at anything that's not a strike.
Well, the on base percentage at .435 will tell you that, doesn't it? When he gets a pitch to hit, he's hitting it hard, and when they don't give him something to hit, he's going to take his walks.
It's got me thinking, though, out loud about a younger Jeff Cirillo.
That's what makes him such an ideal number 2 hitter. And that, and the fact that he hits the ball to the opposite field so well. Got that big hole between first and second with Ricky at first base.
1-1 the count. You look back at Jeff Cirillo in his heyday. 1998 with Milwaukee, he hit .321. He walked 79 times. The 79 walks, a single season high for Rillo. But it was always just as many walks as strikeouts, or very close. One and 2 the count. Is continuing to work it. In his second pro season, Jeff Cirillo, between Stockton and Beloit, this is unbelievable to me. In 130 games, he walked 86 times and struck out 85. I mean, patient, his second year in.
Yeah. Well, you know, you either know the strike zone or you don't. You know, I mean, very rarely do you see a kid come up to the major leagues and, you know, swing wildly for a couple of years and all of a sudden find the strike zone. I mean, that's something you learn as a young kid. Not to say you can't learn that as time goes on. I think Richie Sexton was one guy that I remember that had got a better understanding of his strike zone as he got to the big leagues the longer he played.
Billy Hall is a guy who is steadily, slowly but surely training himself about the strikes. And it was 2 winters ago. Billy took a lot of batting practice in which he didn't swing the bat. Just watched the baseball a lot. Cirillo on the ground out toward third. David Eckstein is tested. What a play. What a play by David Eckstein on a high backhanded bounce. Milwaukee comes up empty. More after this from Miller Park.
Bit of a shakeup in the National League Central Division. The Cincinnati Reds lost today, but they had won 8 in a row to catch the St. Louis Cardinals, who, coming into action tonight, had lost 3 in a row. So with a Cincinnati loss and a Cardinal win, St. Louis will go back into first place by 1/2 game.
And you still hold out hope that the Milwaukee Brewers can rally in this game with that in mind. 2-0 the count to Scott Rolen. And of course, one of the reasons there has been a shakeup in this division, many think, the best player in this division is not playing right now. And it's been that way since last Saturday when he came out of a game, Albert Pujols, with that oblique injury. Popped up right center field. And Brady Clark makes the play. Everyone collectively held their breath in the Gateway City when they were watching Fox Saturday Baseball 1 week ago.
And then going after a foul pop of all things, you see him holding those oblique muscles. He said he felt a pop. And some say it's going to be 3 weeks. Some say it's not going to be until the All-Star game when Albert Pujols returns. Look at the team earned run average since Albert has left. Not much of a difference in the offense, is there?
Well, again tonight they're doing what Ned said they would. He probably hates it that he's right, manager Ned Yost.
You know, a team can react one of 2 ways. One team, you know, take the Chicago Cubs. They lose Derek Lee, and they completely collapse offensively. But on the flip side, once in a while, when you see the big guy go down, everybody collectively up and down the order steps it up a notch, and they pick up the slack. And the St. Louis Cardinals so far have been able to do that. Now, the problem that they've had has been the pitching. And Albert Pujols doesn't have anything to do with that.
No, he makes many opposing pitchers' knees knock, but certainly not the old Cardinals pitchers. Folks enjoying the ball game in the new picnic area in right field. Looks like a good spot. The 1-2.
Yeah, that's a good spot no matter what the score.
Now, have you been out there yet at all?
I have.
You folks know we're not on every day and every night. We're on a lot this year, 129 times, including spring training. But I think doing a game from there may be in play. You see, they see themselves on the monitor. They look up over the shoulder. That's a graphic we have inserted. You could actually call the news from out there. You could just sit down, grab a bar stool and a beverage, and have the monitor right over your shoulder. And in Waukesha today. Or Waukesha, as one national news weatherman who's on NBC's Today Show called it, who will go nameless. We'll just call him Al. There's that slip up though in the movie Mr. 3000, which I love watching. Such a fun movie because it's all Wisconsin, it's all Milwaukee. I love Bernie Mac, but at some point they call it Waukesha in the movie. 3-2 the count.
How does that stuff happen?
I don't know. I can't really say anything because for about my first 2 years here, every piece of copy I would get, I would either cross-check it with you or a Wisconsinite in the truck. There are some challenges in this state.
Oswego?
Yeah, Oswego. Matt Kenseth, Milk. All the big friends that I was winning day after day. Remember when I called Matt Kenseth a virtual unknown?
Yeah.
That went over well.
NASCAR champion.
But here's how it evens up. Those people that were angry, even though I called him a virtual unknown, I got to meet him in person the next year.
That's right, in New York.
So I guess I actually knew him then.
So he wasn't an unknown.
Not anymore, not to me.
Not to you. We had him on our open, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Things were going well at that point. You know the team's playing well when you have a NASCAR racer on in your open. 1-1 the count. Folks, Brewers and the Mets here in just a moment. Matt Kenseth, come on in. Edmonds lifts it. Boy, that's his power side, too, to the opposite field. All right, let's do it for the kids. Let's get some runs for that young man right there. Love that haircut. Celebrated his 80th birthday. So a big, big happy birthday to Mr. Russert. And Mike does a great job. Mr. Russert, you should be very proud of him. Most of the time, he stays out of trouble. Most of the time.
He looked awfully good in that suit today. He was part of that press conference for the Brewers' first-round draft choice.
He was, and he got us some exclusive video.
Jeremy Jeffress introduced today the folks in Milwaukee. Threw in the bullpen. There he is.
It was very, very exclusive, according to Mike. Hauled us out there, did a great job. Craig Kashawn went out. That young man, you know you can handle yourself, and you know you're at least off to a good start. It doesn't mean you're going to be a successful big leaguer. As Billy goes into right center field, that one is down. He's thinking two, but you got to be careful, Billy. And a nice job firing it back in again. Here is the young man throwing earlier today.
Well, he's 18 years old, and at 9-1 with a .44 ERA out of Halifax County Senior High School. He struck out 121 batters in 63 2/3 innings. 2 an inning. It's not bad. He's got a mid to upper 90s fastball. He's got a good fluid delivery, which means he's really not susceptible, to injury. He doesn't have one of those unorthodox deliveries that puts a lot of pressure on the shoulder and the elbow. And talking to him, he's got a lot of poise.
0-1 the count to Carlos. Did he? Yes, he did. Not sure if that's a reflection out there of the lights. 0-2 the count. Carlos toward right, long run, and Encarnacion, and he makes the play for the out. Craig Cashon was out there in the bullpen today. Had some good access to Mr. Jeffers, and let's find Craig. Craig.
Well, yeah, you know, this kid was impressive out there, and it was impressive to talk to him as well. 18-year-old, great composure, and you saw him working with Mike Maddox, and I asked Mike Maddox before the game, you know, what were your impressions, and he said, I'll tell you what, he's got some stuff. I was impressed. Now, he wasn't giving up nearly as much as Marcus Hanel, who was the bullpen catcher out there. Marcus Hanel told me, he said, boy, that kid can really deal. In fact, the closer that ball got to the plate, the more movement it had, the more big time this kid looked like he could become. So we got a future in this young man, I think.
Pitching change. Thank you, Craig, for that report. We'll hear, by the way, that interview with the young man in our post-game coverage. For now, we'll step aside.
Fans can watch Brewer games live online whenever you're away from Milwaukee, exclusively from MLB.tv. Brewers.com has more live games than anyone else. MilwaukeeBrewers.com, where baseball is always on.
That's my guy. I love that haircut.
You know, that's a summer haircut. I used to have one of those when I was a kid. You know, it cuts back on the expenses. You don't need a nice haircut. You know, in the summer, just shave it off, and come September, you have the hair back.
He's having fun, isn't he? Randy Flores. Left-hander.
They called it a Princeton.
Did they really?
A little bit longer in the front, you know, kind of shaved in the back.
Now, would you put a little, you know, dippity-do and spike it up in the front?
No dippity-do, just, you know, whatever.
No dippity-do, huh?
They called it a Princeton.
I call that a Prince Fielder, and I call it a ball that is botched as he recovered. No way. Well, maybe this will be it. As you were talking about Princeton's, it was Prince Fielder getting one out to the right side. What could have been a double play turns out to be runners on first and second, one out.
No, now maybe you hit one out of here, and all of a sudden you're back in the game. Corey Hart stepping into the box. Good slider, two-hopper right to Aaron Miles. That should have been a double play. As it stands, the Brewers are in business here with one out. Tried to be a little bit too quick. And everybody's safe.
All right, let's see if Corey, who has really stroked the baseball since coming back up to the big leagues, hitting .409 overall this year. See if he can get into one. Takes a shot at the right side. Corey Hart 3 for 7 in this homestand. Has had 2 starts this year. One in right field, one at first base. And from May 29th to June 4th, playing sporadically, had a 6-game hitting streak. When you're pinch hitting a majority of the time, to have a hitting streak that long, that's incredible.
And good opportunity for Corey Hart to get in that bat against a lefty. Tony La Russa keeping a left-hander out there because of Jeff Jenkins. He's the guy on deck, left-handed hitter. So Ned Yost taking the opportunity to put in his right-hander that has some power, Corey Hart.
Well, just in case, Ned. A little bit of optimism out there. Derek Turnbow starts to toss the baseball a bit. If not, it'll be Dan Cole. And the same sort of setup for the Cardinals. Isringhausen and Looper. 2-1 the count.
And the Brewers are only one utility player left on the bench, that Corey Koski.
Corey 6 feet 6 inches tall. 17 home runs a year ago in AAA. 2 in the big leagues. Certainly with the 19 home runs has that kind of power, and as he starts to play every morning, as you talk about, gets to know the strike zone better in the big leagues, you would think 25 easily once he gets an everyday job. Breaking ball down the right field line, hugging that line. That is a foul ball.
All right, Flores gave him a slider. It was up in the strike zone, and ordinarily a ball you would think a young kid would try and pull, went right with it. Ball slicing down the right field line, just does miss that right field line, and counts now at 2-2. But Corey gave that one a pretty good ride to right field. Flores making it clear that he doesn't want to throw Corey Hart a fastball for a strike in this situation. That was a 2-1 slider.
Fearing that if he makes a mistake in, that mistake in will end up in Fridays. They're looking for a ground ball, bunching the middle of the infield. Runners on first and second. The 2-2. Nice job by Molina. There it is again, that same pitch that we talk about, a fastball in the dirt.
Yeah, really the only thing a catcher can do is try and knock it down with a glove. It's really impossible to be able to get your knees down on the ground and shift over. It gets to you so quickly. So what does Molina do? He tries to get the glove in front of it and keeps it right there.
Crowd trying to get behind the crew a bit, making a little bit of noise, bubbling up. That one is low, but not by much. Corey Hart coaxes a walk.
Boy, that's a tough pitch to lay off of right there. I'll tell you, I think he was fooled completely on that pitch, because if he thought a slider was coming, got to believe he'd have hacked at it. Just missed down in the zone. Check it out. Is it low?
No,
I don't think so. Got away with one there.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, with the bench tapped and the fact that you don't hit for veterans like Jeff Jenkins, the only man on the bench a lefty, Jenkins, who is 0 for 2 against left-handed pitching tonight, digs in and takes strike one.
This will be the last hitter for Randy Flores, because everybody else is right-handed except for when you get down to Prince Fielder.
Jeff, with those 2 strikeouts, is hitless in his last 10 at-bats, though he did walk and score a run in the second inning. We gotta hope he can break out of the skids against the lefty. 1-1 to count. Just find yourself thinking of Jenkins and the times he has broken out of slumps, but with a nice easy approach and a little dumper into left field.
Yeah, left center wide open for Jenks. You can see he's really pulling that shoulder, trying to pull everything. He's got that shoulder leaking out toward the first baseman. The times that he does have success against lefties, as you mentioned, stays right in there and shoots the ball into left field. They're playing him pretty much straight away in the outfield and in the infield. They've got Eckstein shaded just a bit up the middle.
Jenkins representing the tying run. The 1-2. Breaking ball. He took a shot down that way. Too late on it, but we'll do it again. Boy, you like to see that.
And if you're going to foul him off in these situations with 2 strikes, you want to foul him off to the opposite field. See a hitter do that a couple of times, and all of a sudden you think maybe I should come inside, and that's what Jeff wants.
The error by Miles, boy, is looming large right now, and the Brewers are trying to capitalize. Hall, you saw him a moment ago at third. He singled. And with Prince Fielder hitting what could have been a double play ground ball, Miles did not record an out. Corey Hart on a pitch that was very close to being strike 3 walked. So if ever a club has been given some breaks, much like the Brewers gave the Cardinals early in the game, it's been the Brewers here. Tough night for Jeff. He struck out 3 times along with that walk.
Well, they came inside too, didn't they? But the pitch was down in the zone. Fouled a couple off to the right side, came inside, and Jeff just couldn't catch up to it. Big strikeout for Randy Flores.
Well, they gather around the mound. They wait for a moment for Tony La Russa, their skipper, and now Tony will make a move. Looks like it'll be a double switch as well as he pulls that lineup card out. Let's see what they have up their sleeve. Call to the bullpen has been made. Dave Duncan, pitching coach. Jason Isringhausen coming on. Has been rested. Kind of a mental cleansing the last couple of days, and the closer for the Cardinals comes on. Ned Yost has exhausted just about all of his resources. The same can be said for Tony La Russa, the skipper for the St. Louis Cardinals. Jason Isringhausen comes on, 18 of 22. He has not pitched in 4 days. Last outing against Cincinnati, and it was an outing in which he cost the Cardinals the game. A third of an inning. Gave up a big home run, 3 earned runs in that outing, and he's been given a few days off since then.
And fastball breaking ball for Jason Isringhausen, and very unusual for Jason. More walks than strikeouts. 23 walks, 21 strikeouts. Giving up 4 home runs.
Rodriguez takes over in right, by the way.
That's what the Brewers need right now, another homer.
Brady Clark, who tonight has doubled, scored a run, driven in a run, struck out, and singled. Has the bases loaded, representing the tying run. Strike 1. Not a whole lot on that fastball. 89 miles an hour from Jason Isringhausen.
Isringhausen usually in the low to mid 90s with a fastball. He's got that electric slider. Every now and again he's going to throw up a curveball, but not too often. There it is.
He threw it up there, certainly.
And he hung it. Got away with that one.
Well, when Carlos Lee back on April the 13th hit that decisive home run against St. Louis in that 11-inning 4-3 win, he hit it against Jason Isringhausen. Brewers trying to have lightning strike again against the all-star closer. He's way ahead though, 0-2. Bases loaded, the 0-2 pitch. Didn't miss by much. 1-2 the count.
And the high strike has been called all night. That might have been off the outside corner, a little bit high, but that pitch right there has been called a strike just about all night long.
Brady toward right field, tries to dump it in there, and he just missed what would have been a huge hit.
Yeah, gotta believe with Corey Hart's speed, he might have been able to score on that if it was fair. That's what you need right now. A guy just going up there, just trying to put the bat on the baseball, and Brady Clark does that very well. Tough guy to strike out. He usually puts it in play.
You know, going after like a lot of these Cardinals do consistently. Guys like So Taguchi and David Eckstein. Heck, even Scott Rowland when the chips are down. Not over swinging. One and two the count. curveball hit on the ground out to Eckstein. And Miles in time for the out. Well, this is our Menards game reset, and the Cardinals with 10 unanswered runs. There's no doubt about it. Milwaukee was leading in this ball game at the end of 2, 6-0. Jorge De La Rosa was far from perfect, but it had a couple of very solid frames. Whether his finger started acting up, we saw a little bit of blood on his pants. If that may have been a part of it, De La Rosa lost the strike zone. The Brewers lost the control of the game, quite honestly. And David Eckstein's had a big night as well. Alan Simpson, who made his Brewers debut against the Nationals on Sunday, goes to work. Makes his home in Appleton, Wisconsin, though he is from Las Vegas, Nevada. Picked up in spring training from the Cincinnati Reds. Fastball slider. Goes pretty hard. We saw that the other day.
It brings a little bit. He's got some good life on that fastball. Just a matter of him being able to settle down and throw some strikes.
Hector Luna disappointed with that strike one call from Alan Simpson. Luna a single, triple, walk, run scored. 0-2 the count. 93 right on the outside corner. Well, tomorrow we'll have the game for you as well. Same two teams going at it, with Chris Capuano taking the mound against sinker ball specialist Jason Marquis. Sunday as well, we'll have the game for you. Dave Bush against Jeff Suppan. Put him away. Good high rising four-seam fastball and a nice attack on Hector Luna.
Him 92 miles an hour up around the letters, and Luna couldn't lay off of it. Pound the strike zone early so you don't have to throw strikes later on in the count. I mean, that's the battle cry for Mike Maddox. It didn't happen early on, at least not in this game.
Greg Maddux moved past a couple of gentlemen named Ryan and Sutton tonight with career win number 325 as the Cubs held on and beat Cincinnati 6-5. Congratulations to the Cubs right-hander. 7th win of the year, 325 in his career. Ryan Dempster his 10th save. Hatteberg and Dunn homer. Dunn with 19. That's what we were talking about earlier, how the St. Louis Cardinals can take advantage of number 325 for Maddox and jump right over those Cincinnati Reds back in first place. Good slider spoiled there by Molina. Philadelphia and Washington. 8-8 game in the 8th in our nation's capital. Burrell his 15th, Utley his 12th, and Howard his 22nd. Those some big home run numbers right there.
Nationals playing some pretty good baseball after leaving Milwaukee. They swept the Brewers. The Nationals were 10 games under 500 before they trotted in to play the Brewers. They're 28-33, trying to crawl back to that 500 mark. That's a scrappy club, that is.
Give them some pitching and they'll be all right. Majority of that staff is hurt.
Yeah, well, majority of that team is hurt.
That just missed inside. Houston beat Atlanta. The Braves, again, they leave you scratching your head. Talk about an up and down team. The Braves are now 4 games below. They've lost 10 of 12. And that's ball 4.
Oh, that's a live arm, isn't it? Kind of a short arm, and that ball just, he hides it very well. It just comes flying out of the hand, and he's only able to find the strike zone a little bit more often early in the count. He could do some damage out there.
We're talking about Atlanta and their struggles. You just saw Ned Yost a moment ago. losing those 8 consecutive games, trying to get it back together last few games. You can imagine Ned picking up the phone and asking his mentor and his old boss Bobby Cox, hey Skip, I need some help here. I'm struggling. And Bobby saying, not now. Not now. Call me another time. I'm trying to get my own ship settled and plug a few holes right now. Atlanta 29-33. Houston back to 500. 31-31. That's another club, Houston, that'll pick up a game, or a half game I should say, in the standings. Houston will move to 6 back. If in fact St. Louis holds on. Good slider. Very good slider. Boy, after the walk to Molina, he had that walk in the middle. He attacked two pretty wickedly with some pitches to 2 hitters, Luna and Miles.
And they got Luna with a high fastball. Miles on an 0-2 pitch. Got him with a slider. Well, get ahead, kid, and throw this nasty pitch. Look at that pitch. Breaks late, down and in. Miles wonders where it went.
John Rodriguez, part of a double switch. Takes a pitch low and inside. You bet that's a strike. 1-1 the count. Well, you know your game is not clicking along when they're almost done in Denver. 3-0 Dodgers lead the Rockies. Place that notoriously has long games and a lot of offense. They appeal. He did not go around. A game middle of the 9th inning. The Dodgers 3, the Rockies nothing. The 2-1 outside, 3-1. Brad Penny, by the way, pitching a shutout so far at Coors Field. Full count. And they're catching us in that Yankees game. They had a nice, healthy rain delay.
Yeah,
that game's the bottom of the 8th, and they had a pretty thick rain delay, didn't they?
I think it rained out yesterday.
Gentlemen getting an update from Yankee Stadium. His friends visiting. Just gave him a call. That's big news there. The Yankees are coming back, he said. Into the seats that one goes. His buddy was telling him that the Yankees scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning, and they're now within 1. That fan, of course, reminding his friend that he is a Red Sox fan. And they won tonight 4-3 over Texas. And that young lady has never liked the Red Sox since the World Series sweep a couple of years ago. Gobbled up by Ricky Weeks and back into the dugout, thankfully, or I would have continued to talk. Isringhausen still out there trying to record the save. When he came in, certainly a situation that warranted being notched right into the save category. Obviously, it's 10-6 now as he goes to work here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Last chance for Milwaukee. And what if the Brewers cannot rally will be one of the more disappointing losses of the year.
No doubt about that.
And there you see the work for Izzy. And how much he struggled against Cincinnati a couple of days ago. All right, can the boys do it again? Whenever you see Billy Hall anywhere near bad rack, you gain hope. Hall is due up fourth this inning.
Yeah, you'd like to see him at the plate in the ninth inning.
St. Louis will take over first place in the Central if they hold on. And they'll do it without Albert Pujols. Moeller is backed out of there. Well, Isringhausen early in his career obviously highly thought of as a starting pitcher in the New York Mets organization. They had a handful of prospects come up all at the same time, the New York Mets. Curveball rolled out toward third. Boy, is he a good third baseman.
Well, he's always in position to throw, isn't he? Never flat-footed. Very sure-handed. Does the same thing on his throws to first base every time he catches a ground ball. Consistency. Check it out. Catches the ball, crow hop, nice overarm, over-the-hand throw, and right on the money to first base.
But when you talk about Isringhausen too, and his work as a starter, majority of the time that's what he was doing in the minor leagues coming up through the system. Out of Brighton, Illinois, drafted by the Mets. As Ricky takes strike one.
And most closers do start out as starting pitchers, right? How many guys do you draft to be a closer in the minor leagues?
That's true. Houston Street comes to mind, a guy who closed in college and now closes in the big leagues, but not too many.
Yeah, not too many.
0-1 the count to Ricky Weeks. He happened to be up early in the morning. Had a great interview with Ricky today on the personal side of life, and catch it on Baseball Saturday, AM 1510 from 8 to 9 a.m. Ricky was some very unique stuff. His college days, going to a traditionally African-American college, what that was like. Ouch. Ouch. I mean, he has he and David Eckstein both. These guys get hit and hit and hit. Eckstein's got 10. What is that for Ricky? 11 or 12?
Let's check it out.
There you go.
Yep, it is 12. Well, you stand on top of the plate like Ricky Weeks and David Eckstein, and you dive out over the plate, you're going to get hit with some pitches.
Here's Jeff Cirillo. Well, maybe it starts there. Right down the middle, strike one. And you got Billy on deck representing if Rillo reaches what could be a one-run deficit. 0-2 the count. Just to finish the thought on Isringhausen, you give credit to the A's once they acquired him. They saw his potential as a closer, and the rest. And it's been a nice career for him. It's been history. It's pitching coach Rick Peterson, who was at that time with the A's. I believe he's with the Diamondbacks now. But it was Peterson that did magical work with Jason Isringhausen. That's Brian Price that is now with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Bill Hull, who's been so heroic later in games, his average goes up later in games, and We talked to him before today's ball game about why so relaxed when the chips are down.
I never try to do too much. I mean, I'm up there trying to get on base for the team, and I'm looking for a good pitch to hit and try to put a good swing on it. I just wait for my pitch, and if I put a good swing on it and get good contact, good results happen.
And trying to extend this inning, certainly the Brewers quite a ways away from tying it. We're hoping to extend this inning. Milwaukee down by 4. At one point they led in this game 6-0. And Billy does, as the entire Brewers team does. Billy's average goes up 19 points after the 7th inning. 262, 1 through 6, and 281. 5 home runs, by the way, in 60 at bats in the 7th inning on. It's a very high ratio.
As we said on the open tonight, I mean, it's all just a matter of whether the pitching is going to be able to keep them close enough. You know, 1-2 runs late in the ball game, and they seem to come up with the dramatic finish. But 4 runs is a bit much to ask.
St. Louis came in losers at 5 of 6. They were swept by Cincinnati. Runner goes, the 1-2. Ball game is over. All goes down on strikes. Jason Isringhausen picks up the save. The Brewers led the Cardinals 6-0, and part of the comeback fueled by David Eckstein, our Dell player of the game tonight. 3 for 5 and a very big night. We take a look back at David Eckstein's evening.
Well, the guy at the top of the order is the one to get it done. Bases loaded, 1 out in the 4th inning. That drives in a run, and then later on a double. That came in the 5th inning, driving another run. He scored a couple of times. He got 3 base hits. Did a nice job energizing the top of that order. He and So Taguchi on base, it seemed like, all night long.
Hancock the winner, Winklesass the loser, Isringhausen his 19th save. It took nearly 3:40 to play it. Postgame shows next.